dancing of Zambia, proud and free, land of wealth and joy in unity, victors in the struggle for our rights. We want freedom's fight, oh, one, strong and free. Africa is our own motherland, fashioned with and blessed by those good men. Let us all our people join as one, brothers under the sun, oh, one, strong and free. One land and one nation is our cry. Dignity and peace in Zambia's sky, like a noble eagle in its flight. Zambia, praise to thee, oh, one, strong and free. Praise be to God, praise be, bless our great Zambia, Zambia, Zambia. Remain we stand under the flag of our land. Zambia, praise to thee, oh, one, strong and free.
Prayer. Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness has appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to consider with your abundant favor us, your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of such important responsibilities in this land. Let your blessings descend upon us here in Parliament assembled, and grant that we may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen. Honorable members, when the procession was entering the chamber, there was noise coming from the left. I think we saw the circular that was given to each one of you some 2 weeks ago. Can we please observe silence when the speaker's procession is entering and leaving the chamber? We may continue now to matters of urgent public importance. The Honorable Member for Chinsali.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My matter of urgent public importance is raised at the Honorable Minister of Health.
You may continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. In the following areas of Chinsali, Choshi, Chandamali, and Muliangolo, among other areas, there has been an outbreak of measles, which is a communicable disease, highly contagious. So, Madam Speaker, if a vaccination exercise is not conducted in these areas that I've mentioned, we may start recording deaths as a result of this deadly disease. Madam Speaker, I seek your indulgence in this matter. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Kaumbwe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My urgent matter of public importance is directed at the Minister of Fisheries and the Livestock. Madam Speaker, in Kaumbwe constituency, particular Kaumbwe ward at Mwanjawantu headquarters, in the military camp, we have soldiers that are manning the area. Of late, there have been strange dogs that are mad dogs, and they entered the camp. The soldier tried to kill the dog, but then the bullet went to a passersby. Madam Speaker, of late, there have been frequent attacks by mad dogs around the country, resulting in death. On Friday last week, in Mtendere compound, B, C, and D, a mad dog had to actually attack 17 people. And is the Minister of Fisheries and Livestock in order to allow this situation, madness coming from dogs? Is it because there is a food shortage that we are not feeding these dogs? I seek your serious indulgence, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
The Honorable Member for Chadiza.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My matter of urgent public importance is directed at the Minister of Local Government. Madam Speaker, I'm just from the constituency, and I've noticed with great concern over the matter or over how the construction of almost all CDF projects are going on. Madam Speaker, for us to record quality on any construction project, we need quality control and assurance plans to be in place. Madam Speaker, I'll give you an example. If you are to undertake concrete works, you need to ensure that there's presence on the side of a client on each and every site where these works are going on. Because concrete has got several compositions. There's reinforcement, there are aggregates, fine and coarse aggregates, and cement. So for us to ensure that these things, the correct mix of concrete is achieved, the client should have presence on site. But to my dismay, Madam Speaker, most of the construction works are happening without presence from the client. Madam Speaker, this, if not controlled, may result into a disaster, because these works will not record value for money. And as such, Madam Speaker, we will see a situation where after construction is completed, most of these works have to be revisited. If not, will become defective. That's why you find that in a building, a door that used to be closed a year ago, you can't close it anymore. Windows that used to open and close, you find that you can't close or open anymore. Yes. Madam Speaker, if we don't provide a quality control and assurance plan on these works that are going on under CDF, the government will record a lot of wasteful expenditure. Madam Speaker, is the Minister of Local Government in order to allow these works to commence without any quality control and assurance plan being put in place, first of all? Madam Speaker, I seek your serious indulgence on this matter. Thank you.
The Honorable Member for Lumezi.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the matter I intend to raise is directed at the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs. Madam Speaker, last week, this House debated heavily on the protesters that were associated with the LGBTs, which later on, as a result of that debate, saw people being arrested and eventually released on police bond. Madam Speaker, we are worried as a country. We are noticing a serious systematic way of arresting civil protesters that are not associated to LGBTs, but those that were demonstrating against the Ndola dual carriageway. The police could not release those on bond, unlike the case on the LGBTs. Is it ethnic cleansing that is taking place, or it is political? We seriously need the Minister of Home Affairs to tell the House why others are released, others are denied bond. Kasonde Mwenda, Ibrahim Mwamba, and many others were denied bond, yet lesbians were released immediately, even though they were only arrested after an outcry from members of the public. Madam Speaker, we need to know if there is a shift in how the laws are being implemented by the Ministry of Home Affairs. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
The Honorable Member for Kanfinsa.
Madam Speaker, I rise in line with Standing Order 134 to bring a matter of urgent public importance to the Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security. Madam Speaker, national events are supposed to be an opportunity for different people to coexist. And Madam Speaker, when we have national events such as the Women's Day and the Youth Day, this is when we must demonstrate not only to the current generation but to the future that we are ready to coexist. Over the weekend, Madam Speaker, we had instances of violence in selected places during Youth Day. As I stand here, Madam Speaker, there is a letter being generated by the Living Water Church in Kitwe complaining against the behavior of UPND cadres in Kitwe who entered the church to attack PF members that sought refuge in a church. Madam Speaker, I'm aware that in Ndola there were incidences of political violence, and when we have an opportunity to coexist, we must harness that opportunity. I raise this urgent matter, Madam Speaker, directed at the Minister of Home Affairs, and I know that you've always guided that for an urgent matter to qualify, it must meet your criteria. A matter of national unity, such as a national event, should unite us. Madam Speaker, is the Minister in order not to assure this country that national events should be opportunities for us to unite? I seek your serious indulgence, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The last one, the Honorable Member for Petauke.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving the good people of Petauke to raise the matter of urgent public importance under Standing Order 134. Madam Speaker, this matter is directed to the Minister of Gender. Labor. Sorry, Madam Speaker, the Minister of Labor. It's the Member of Parliament for Munari who is disturbing me, the room. My brother. Thank you, Madam Speaker. On a writer note. Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's directed to the Minister of Labor. Madam Speaker, recently, the Minister of Labor announced the increment of minimum wage in the private sector. And the tanker drivers, especially the tanker drivers, Madam Speaker, they are the ones who control our economy, because they are the ones who transport fuel, diesel, petrol, kerosene. Those who don't have electricity, they use kerosene. And diesel also, each and every food countrywide is being delivered using diesel and petrol, Madam Speaker. But the drivers, especially tanker drivers, since the Minister of Labor announced the increment of minimum wage, the tanker drivers and the other drivers, they haven't increased, and they are on the same salaries. Is the Minister of Labor in order to sit quietly while the drivers are suffering? Some of them, they go international to go and get petrol, diesel, leaving their families, but their salary usually is just finished before even they come back to Zambia, Madam Speaker. We seek your indulgence, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll start with the issue that was raised by the Honorable Member for Chinsali to the Minister of Health. He talked about an outbreak of measles in the area, and he wanted the Minister of Health to conduct a vaccination exercise to avoid death. The Honorable Member might wish to know that this matter is localized to a constituency. I would therefore advise the Honorable Member maybe to use another channel. You can make use of urgent questions. I know very well that not long ago, there was a similar exercise that was carried out the whole country. So for that constituency, the Honorable Member for Chinsali will raise an urgent question so that the matter can be attended to by Minister of Health as soon as possible, instead of waiting for a ministerial statement. We move on to the Honorable Member for Kaumbwe. This one was addressed to the Minister of Fisheries and Livestock, where he complained simply or in summary of stray dogs in his area and also in Lusaka. The Honorable Member might, let me just make it clear that this matter, according to the way he explained it, is not of recent occurrence. It has to be something that happened, especially the issue for Kaumbwe. kindly find another means of addressing this issue, maybe through a question. Your matter is not admissible under this standing order that we are looking at now. We are now moving on to the Honorable Member for Chadiza, who talks about the quality of works in the CDF project. He complained that the client actually is not always there, and there is no quality control plan in place that the contractors can follow. Again, this issue is not a recent occurrence. It has been there for a long time, according to him. Therefore, again, this issue is not admissible under Standing Order 134. The Honorable Member for Chadiza can find other ways of bringing this matter forward. We now move on to the Honorable Member for Rumezi, who talks about, this one was it required the attention of the Minister of Home Affairs that some people were arrested and later on released. He mentioned to say the lesbians, LGBT, and they were put on police bond, but there was a demonstration again that happened for the Lusaka-Ndola Highway, and he hasn't seen the people that were arrested put on police bond. Again, Honorable Member for Rumezi, this is a matter which does, I think this is a matter which we all know that it requires the attention of the executive. Issues of bail are dealt with in line with the law. I don't know whether the Minister of Home Affairs has got anything on this. Is it true that others were given police bond, others were denied?
Madam Speaker, the lawyers handling that matter have adequately handled the matter, and everyone who were arrested are out of police cells.
Thank you. We now move to the Honorable Member for Kafinsa. Again, this one is directed to the Minister of Home Affairs, where he talked about national events are very important to the nation as they teach us to coexist with one another. He mentioned that there were pockets of violence in some parts of the country where even there was a group of UPND members that attacked a church as they were following up some PF members. We all know that peace is very important, and also that the president every now and then is discouraging violence amongst ourselves. Since this also, he mentioned that it has happened in several parts of the country. I don't know if, again, the Minister of Home Affairs is ready now to say something, or we give him time to come and address us over the violence that was witnessed during the Youth Day and Women's Day.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to inform this House that according to the report I have received, the violence that occurred in Kitwe was started by our colleagues in PF. And the police Madam Speaker, is thoroughly investigating the matter. All the culprits that are involved in this sad saga will be brought to book. Madam Speaker, I also wish to inform this august House that the President of the Republic of Zambia made a passionate appeal to the nation that we should not condone violence in this country. And he did mention that we should not go back to the dark days of the PF, where violence was prevalent during public functions. We are aware that members of the public and the opposition were being attacked in various functions that were held in the country, viz. At the Freedom Statue, at the Cathedral of the Holy Cross, and other areas. And it was widespread. Unlike the recent happenings, very few incidences of violence were reported. The only one we are aware of as police and Minister of Home Affairs is what happened in Kitwe. The violence that was instigated by PF were throwing stones.
Are these follow-up questions? The Honorable Member for Shiwangandu.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, indeed, like you guided, it would have been prudent for the Honorable Minister to gather information from his different divisions, because the instances of violence were not only recorded in Kitwe. I had the privilege to be in Kitwe attending a funeral when these reports started emerging.
Order, honorable members.
Madam, this disorderly behavior needs to come to an end, really. We are an August House and we need to respect
Order, honorable
you.
members, can we please listen to the question on the floor? What is your question, honorable member?
Madam Speaker, like I was saying, our colleague, the Honorable former Minister, Honorable Skazo, lost a son, and we were burying when we started receiving reports. And honorable members of our Kitwe, not only Honorable Kangombe, Honorable MP for Sakire, and the Honorable MP for Masaiti, they were running around to try and attend to the people who were injured. And what was worse, Madam Speaker, the national event was held in Kitwe, where the President was. And it would have been fair for the Honorable Minister to wait for all the reports, because Kasama was another area where members were attacked. Broad daylight. And I've already said, Honorable Minister, Brem Game won't sort out this problem. This problem will be with us for a long time if we continue apportioning blame on each other. Lawlessness is lawlessness.
What
Is the Honorable Minister aware that it was not only Kitwe where instances of violence have been recorded, so that we can know how to take him in terms of follow-up questions? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Just to inform the House that actually when these matters are brought up, if the minister is ready with a statement, he can go ahead just there and then. If he's not ready, then the minister would advise so that we set a date for him to come and give the ministerial statement. The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, our standing orders are very clear that when a matter is under investigation, you cannot start discussing it on the floor of this House. And I was merely acknowledging that there was violence in Kitwe and that the investigations are going on. And I did mention that the President, who was present in Kitwe, condemned the violence that took place in Kitwe. At an appropriate time, after the investigations are concluded, the nation will be advised.
Thank you, Honorable Minister of Home Affairs. We are now guided that he has acknowledged that there was violence, some violence in Kitwe, which even His Excellency condemned. So it would be fair, like he advised, to come back at a later stage just to update us after the investigations are concluded. Because the way it is now, we are going to interfere with the investigations that are already going on. The matter which has been raised, it has been acknowledged that it happened. So can we wait for a future date so that the minister will come to this house to actually tell us what happened on that day, if only it was in Kitwe or indeed some other parts of the country. Thank you. He can come back to this house next week on Wednesday. I hope the investigations would be done by then, or you have gathered more information about the same. Yes. We can move on to the last honorable member for Petauke, who raised the matter on minimum wages for the Minister of Labor. Honorable member, we really don't know whether it's all the drivers in this country, the tank drivers, whether you have made a research. For me, what I would advise you, honorable member, is to find another means of raising this question. It's very important, but not so urgent in the manner that somebody would die. So please find another means of bringing this same issue to the House. Thank you. We move on. Questions for oral answer, understanding order 74. The honorable member for Kanchivia.
Question number 195, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Honorable Member for Kanchivia is asking Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development the following questions. A, whether the government has any plans to construct the following roads. 1, from Sesheke in Western Province to Kipushi in Northwestern Province. And 2, from Chundapole in Kanchivia Parliamentary Constituency direct to the Serenge Samfia Road near the Tuta Bridge. B, if so, when the plans will be implemented. Our response is as follows. A, government has plans to construct the road from Sesheke in Western Province to Kipushi border in Northwestern Province. 2, government has no immediate plans to construct the road from Chundaponde in Kanchivia Parliamentary Constituency direct to the Serenge Samfia Road near the Tuta Bridge. B, the plan to construct the road from Sesheke in Western Province to Kipushi border in Northwestern Province will only be considered in future work plans, subject to availability of funds. 2, the plan to construct the road from Chundaponde in Kanchivia Parliamentary Constituency direct to the Serenge Samfia Road near the Tuta Bridge may be considered in future work plans, subject to availability of funds. Madam Speaker, thank you.
Supplementary questions. The Honorable Member for Kanchivia.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker,
Chundaponde, formerly as part of Kanchibia, now part of Lavush Manda. Madam Speaker, this particular area is strategically positioned to connect Muchinga, Northern, Luapula, and Copperbelt provinces, as well as connecting this particular route to Mbala, Mpulungo Harbor, especially if we're talking about targeting the Great Lakes region, Rwanda, Burundi, etc. In asking this question, Madam Speaker.
All the honorable members, their voices are so loud. I'm sure even the honorable member who is trying to ask the question is struggling to raise his voice because of the voices that are a bit too loud. Can we consult in low voices? The honorable member, you may continue.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the response from the Honorable Minister, number one, commending him that there are plans to link Western Province with Kipushi, DRC. This is a very important route and sits very well in line with our desire as a country to link this country within, but also with the neighboring markets. Question B, Madam Speaker, speaks to a region that would provide a shorter distance for goods targeting Mpulungu Harbor into the Great Lakes region. What is of concern would be that there are no plans. We know that plans can exist even without resources. So the question I would ask for the minister is, much as there would be no resources attached to this particular region and the roads we're talking about, why would that be a problem for government to have a plan to open up that region, whether in the present, in the near future, and the distant future? I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Before the minister comes in, there is an indication for a point of order by the honorable member for Kawambwa. What is your point of order?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise on a point of order pursuant to Standing Order number 65, which demands 1B, that a member who is debating shall ensure that the information he or she provides to the House is factual and verifiable. Madam Speaker, the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs, in responding to your directive, he went ahead and mentioned the Patriotic Front as having instigated the fracas in Kitwe, when he has come back and said he hasn't got full information. Is he in order? Is he in order to continue dragging a good party like the Patriotic Front in all his debate while it's bouncing a party that has got numbers on the ground, a party that has got people behind them? Is in order to continue in this trajectory and this fashion? Madam Speaker, just yesterday the President was saying, if you don't know what you are talking about, kutumpa. The President was saying that. So is in order to continue in this particular fashion, where he comes here and drag a good political party, the PF, that is reigning on the ground in that particular fashion? I need your serious ruling, Madam Speaker.
What is kutumpa? What is the meaning of kutumpa?
Kutumpa is being mischievous and stupid.
Order, honorable member. What I can say on this matter is that we have already concluded and agreed that the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs should come back to this House next week on Wednesday to give us an update of all that transpired, whether it was countrywide, because the areas that were mentioned, I only heard about Kitwe, the Copper Belt, but somebody also mentioned Kasama. So we said the Honorable Minister, when he comes back to this House with a ministerial statement, he's going to update us on what transpired and what the government is doing about it, although he said investigations are already happening. But you come to this house. Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Infrastructure will respond.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. With respect to the second question, Chunda Ponde, first of all, I think to remind the House of the geography of the area, I think it is fair to say from Mpika to Tuta Bridge, which is where he wants a direct connection. At the moment, there is connection via the Great North Road and the Tuta Road, going past the Mukando area. In terms of whether there are plans or no plans, I can assure the honorable member that this has been brought to our attention by, among others, the chief in the area and the elder chief, the elder brother to the chief in the area, has physically come to see me in the past to talk about this particular possible road. But for now, we know that if you're coming from Pika and you're going towards Zambia, there is a road that can be used, even though it may be marginally longer than the route that is talking about. Ultimately, we need to open up all corners of our country, and that is a possibility. But this is also dependent, contingent upon availability of resources. With respect to his first question, and he has made comment on it, the plans are that from Lufwanyama to Kankolonkolo, that is on the, yes, and then from Kankolonkolo to Kasempa, Kasempa to Kaoma, Kaoma to Luampa, Luampa to Simungoma on the Sishek Livingston Road. This was part of a concession agreement that was signed, even though we have had difficulties of the concessionaire reaching financial close. But we think that, as the honorable member is saying, this is an important route, not only for imports and exports, but for the movement of copper from DRC onto the ports. There is a lot of interest, PPP interest, on this particular road. But we have had to untangle the signed concession, because we cannot move until that concession is resolved. With respect to Sisheke Kipushi Road, there is a contract. There was a contract to undertake that particular road with the China State Construction Company, which was then rescoped to all-weather gravel road. Our view as a government is this must go back to a tar road, and there is interest in terms of PPP for that particular section from Solwezi, the turnoff from Solwezi Chingola Road, which is about 11 kilometers from Solwezi, to Kipushi, which is about 125 kilometers. This has been advertised, and we shall begin the process of evaluating whatever bids come up as a PPP on this particular road. I must say that under the circumstances, for those roads that qualify, the PPP is the way to go. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Kachivia.
Madam Speaker, thank you so much. My follow-up question and my last question to the Honorable Minister would be to understand whether there's a plan for the Great Lakes region via Mpulungu Harbour and targeting the market coming from the copper belt, and if that plan would cater for shorter routes as opposed to the long distances that transporters will be subjected to via Kapiri, Mpika, etc., when it's possible to do shorter routes. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the honorable member for that question. The New Dawn administration is always looking at ways to lessen the cost of doing business, and the transportation of exports and the imports, that is part of doing business. Just as an example, the Mwenda Kasomeno Road, which in our view, from Mwenda to be connected to Luingu, Luingu to Kasama, Kasama all the way to Nakonde, is part of the process of shortening the route and also opening up certain parts of our country that need to be opened up. The New Dawn administration is looking seriously at another route, which is Matumbo to Chama, Chama to Lundazi, and on the way to Chipata. That again, if you look at the map of Zambia, is also intended to shorten certain routes. So yes, wherever there are opportunities, we shall explore those opportunities to ensure that the imports and the exports and the movement of goods in this country use the shortest possible routes. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Solwezi East.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for recognizing the people of Solwezi East to ask a follow-up question. Minister, you do recall that you and I and the Minister of Northwest, the provincial minister, we had gone to the Kipushi border there, and you saw the state of the road, and now it is 2 years, 2 rain seasons have passed. I was there just yesterday, and the people are asking, especially that they don't know where the money that NAPS had put in towards that road. They don't know where that money went. So they asked, especially that the PPP arrangement, and I know of some companies that have submitted and solicited for bidding. The people of Solwezi East are asking that when are we going to see this Solwezi Kipushi road being upgraded to bituminous standard? Because when schools open, thanks to the President through the Minister of Defense, the girls at Mushindamo girls were being taken by these army trucks. And really it was agony. 10 days, trucks were stuck on that road. But the question is, when are we going to see contractors move on that road? Are we going to have another rain season still going through the same hell? Mr. Minister, we seek your serious assurance as people of Solwezi East. Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I thank the honorable member for Solwezi East, Mushindamo District, for that follow-up question. A little bit of correction. It's not 2 seasons ago that I was on site. It was, in fact, last year, 2022, around February, that I was actually with him all the way to Kipushi border. That's an indication as to how seriously we are treating this particular road. It's one of those roads that to connect us into DRC, and we have stated time and again on the floor of this House that we are looking at DRC as a potential market that will help us grow our economy. This road, the Kipushi Road, is one of the roads being considered for upgrading to bituminous standards using public-private partnerships. I've said our colleagues who were there before us had re-scoped it to what they call all-weather gravel road. The new Dawn administration says no, it must be bituminous a standard road. And to this effect, a tender for undertaking viability study for the implementation of the project using PPP model is currently ongoing. The honorable member and I are constantly engaging each other, and I must accept that some of the potential concessionaires are the ones that he has brought on board. And that's why I advise this House that wherever we think there's a possibility of a PPP, please bring them so that we can process them, and where possible, they can undertake the work on any particular road or infrastructure as quickly as possible. The Solwezi Kipushi will be done. We are currently analyzing the offer from this potential concessionaire, and when this is done, the House will be informed, and the people of Mushindamo district shall also be informed. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Kankoyo.
I thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm very glad to learn that the Minister of Infrastructure is considering there's the process of awarding the Solwezi, the roads going to this important Kipushi border is being considered, and the process has started. I'm very positive that this process will be concluded, because I was there in Ndola when we were signing the PPP on the Ndola-Lusaka road. I was also assured by the Minister of Finance that the Mufurira-Ndola road will be done through PPP. So now I want to find out from the Minister of Infrastructure, how has this government managed to convince investors to do roads in Zambia using the PPP model when it was so difficult in the past? I thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Madam Speaker, I hear a question, which road have we done? Number one, Chingola, Kasumbalesa is being done. Lusaka Ndola has been signed off. Now, his question was, how have we, as the new Dawn administration, managed to undertake these projects when others before us failed lamentably? Madam Speaker, it's because of the transparency with which we bring to public affairs, the honesty and the integrity, and the desire, the focus on bringing real development to this country. And I must state, Madam Speaker, in an environment where we do not have our resources because of an economy that has been mismanaged, with the negative growth that we inherited, because of the heavy debt that we inherited, and therefore unable to borrow for infrastructure development, I must state that the new Dawn administration, one of their key policies is PPP. We shall not be distracted by anybody in terms of our ability and desire to undertake infrastructure development by using PPP. This is the way to go, and we remain focused in doing public infrastructure wherever is possible using PPP model of financing. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The next question, the Honorable Member for Kalabo Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question number 197.
The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Honorable Member of Parliament for Kalabo Central, Honorable Chinga Miutu, asked the following questions. A, whether the government has any plans to rehabilitate the dilapidated houses for police officers in Kalabo district, and if so, when the plans will be implemented. Madam Speaker, Kalabo Police Station has 22 dilapidated housing units for police officers. Out of these, 20 are occupied, while 2 of them are unoccupied due to deteriorated state. The total number is 23 dilapidated houses. The units are in disrepair and have been condemned for human habitation. In order to mitigate the situation, Madam Speaker, government has decided not to rehabilitate but to construct a total of 49 modern houses in Kalabo district in the second phase of the Ministry of Home Affairs and Internal Security Housing Project. And B, the plans will be implemented when physical space permits and when ongoing projects are completed. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Follow-up questions. The Honorable Member for Kalabo Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's a delight to the people of Kalabo listening to the response. However, whilst I agree with the Minister that the houses are grossly dilapidated heavily, what are the temporal measures to help the officers at least live decent life? What measures can the government put in place whilst waiting for that good project? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, due to the state of the houses that are in Kalabo, government is not in a position to rehabilitate. What we do when the houses are condemned by authorities, those houses should not be occupied, and the officers are given housing allowance in order to rent houses somewhere else.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Chipili.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, I want to find out whether you can also go for PPP, where you allow private sector want to build houses for the police to do that in your plots so that they start renting. Can that be possible? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The policies of government pertaining to PPP projects have been pronounced by the Minister of Infrastructure. If there are any interested parties who would want to undertake a PPP project pertaining to police houses, they are at liberty to consult the Ministry of Infrastructure and Urban Development.
Thank you. Next question, the Honorable Member for Chama North.
Question number 197.
The Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Honorable Member for Chama North, Honorable Mtaya Chalo, is asking the Ministry the following questions. A, whether the government has any plans to construct the following roads. 1, I apologize.
Wrong question,
Madam.
Honorable Minister.
No, the desk have taken the wrong answer. Can I have the one we should have taken is this one? kuisa, you know. Yes, Madam Speaker, now I have the right question and answer. Question A is why the construction of the bridge on Kampemba River in Chama North parliamentary constituency stalled. B, when the project will resume. C, what the total cost of the project is. And D, what the time frame for the completion of the project is. Madam Speaker, the answers are as follows. A, the construction of the bridge at Kampemba River in Chama North parliamentary constituency has stalled due to funding challenges. B, the project will resume once funds are secured. C, the total cost of the project is 121,167,634 kwacha 95 ngwe, VAT inclusive. D, the time frame for completion of the project is 14 months from the commencement of work. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Supplementary questions. The Honorable Member for Chama North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Minister, for that response. I just want the Minister to confirm whether the Kampemba Bridge has been provided for in the 2023 national budget, because a lot of work has been done on that bridge, and what is remaining, I think, is the works are quite very few. So I want to know whether in the 2023 national budget there's been some money which has been provided for. Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Madam Speaker, thank you, the Honourable Member. When him and I visited site, that was last year, about the same time as now, what had been done on the Kampemba bridge was that out of about 25 piles that were required, something like 21 had been done, and we did make a commitment that we would continue provide resources to have those extra piles done, because that particular site was important, because when the rains are heavy and the Kampemba River swells up, Chief Kampombo and the others on the other side get cut off. And as government, we said this was not right, it must be corrected. So we have made a commitment that that bridge will be completed, so that Chief Kampombo and others are never ever cut off again. That commitment was made then. It remains the commitment of this new dawn administration. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Isoka.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, when are the funds going to be secured? Because each time when you are asked a question, you always say when funds are going to be secured. Could you kindly assure the people of Chama North the time the monies are going to be secured? I submit, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Madam Speaker, when we took over government, this particular project had been abandoned by those before us. But being a caring government, a listening government, under the direction of a focused president, President Hakainde Hichilema, we said we are going to do it. When I visited Chief Kampombo, I committed myself in the presence of the Honorable Member of Parliament for the constituency. And when we say that this will be done, I think the Honorable Member who has asked this question must take our word as words of a truly caring government. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Chama North.
Honorable Minister, I think you just informed this House that Matumbo, Chama, Rundazi, these roads are being earmarked for PPP. And the Kampemba Bridge is on the Chama Matumbo Road. Don't you think that if this road is not expeditiously, this bridge is not expeditiously constructed, it will affect the PPP model? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Madam Speaker, the Honorable Member for Chama North is fully aware that I'm also fully aware of the geography of the area. On the Matombo Chama Rundazi Road, there are two bridges. The bigger one is the Luangwa Bridge, and the next one is this particular bridge on the Kampemba River. We have said we are going to do it, and beyond that, work on attracting PPP partners to undertake that particular corridor. It's a very important corridor in terms of the plans of the New Dawn government to open up this country. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Chama South.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister is saying I should ask 2 questions, but standing orders only allow me 1, Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, people of Chama are not interested in good wedding and speeches. We are interested in seeing the bridge being done. Your colleagues, you've stated, the former government, had actually sunk 21 bows out of 25. Are you in a position, Honorable Minister, to assure the people of Chama whether this bridge will be done this year or indeed next year? So that we know, Madam Speaker, we know that PPPs is as good as being told that you will never have the road done. Because the Honorable Minister knows that financial closures that he's talking about, no one will be willing to put in money into PPPs in those areas where the flow of traffic is not economically viable. Are you in a position to assure the people of Chama that Kampemba Bridge will be done this year or next year, or at least time frame, so that we hold you to account? I submit, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the acting leader of opposition for that follow-up question. The commitment of the New Dawn government to undertake that bridge comes from many angles. One of the angles is to make sure that the area around Chief Kampombo is not cut off. For so many years, there was no bridge on this particular spot, and we are going to do it. When time is ripe, I'll go back to site to make sure that my instructions from the last time have been followed. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Chirubi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We know that the option of the PPP, especially on the mentioned road and linked to the bridge, is not feasible as things stand. In the budget, there is only 250 million for doing 600 kilometers of roads. And the schedule for bridges and the schedule for those roads that are supposed to be done has been tabulated. I think the Honorable Minister needs to tell us where, since he said that the money can come from different angles, where the money would come from to do that particular, undertaking, since the budget has stipulated which is going to be tackled in the 250 million and the 600 kilometers.
The Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I thank the Honorable Mlenga, the Member of Parliament for Chilubi. First of all, categorically, I did not say money will come from various angles. It is the desire to undertake the road, the interest groups that have been pressurizing us to have the bridge done. This question is about the bridge. The project, the bridge itself, is not part of the PPP that is proposed for the Matumbo Chama-Lundazi Road. This is a separate project. It's about Chama to Lundazi, Chama to Lundazi, Lundazi to Matumbo. We are going to undertake this particular bridge. And that's the commitment of this new Dawn government. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Lundazi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving the good people of Lundazi a chance to ask the Minister of Infrastructure a question. Honorable Minister, in your statement, you said stalling of Kampemba Bridge is due to resources. Honorable Minister, a lot of bridges are stalling. We find that Lundazi, Msuzi, and most of the other bridges they would stall. My question to you, Honorable Minister, when these projects are stalled, do they cost the government any money or they don't?
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
The Honorable Member for Lundazi, if she wanted to know whether stored projects cost government money, she would have been better served by asking those on our side who are running government, who are stalling these particular projects. These were not stalled by us. The Misuzi to Lundazi Bridge, which is very important leading into our constituency, was stalled by the previous administration. It is this new Dawn government that started reworking on it, on both bridges, and very soon we shall go and reopen those two bridges which lead into our constituency. She knows that. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister, I think there is a segment of the question which has not been attended to. Does it cost money on the stored projects? Does it cost the government?
Number of these projects, Madam Speaker, which are stored, on some of them there is interest payments, there is standing charges, and so on. And that is why, on the floor of this House, the new Dawn government, either through the Minister of Local Government or through myself as Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development, we have talked about cancelling contracts. And what reasons have we given for the desire to cancel the contracts? Is to save government money. If there was no cost associated with that, with the stalling of contracts, we would not have been talking about the possibility of cancelling these contracts. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The clerk will now read the order of the day.
Thanks, His Excellency the President's address. Motion of 28th February, resumption of debate.
When business was interrupted on Friday, 10th March 2023, the House was considering the motion moved by the Honorable Member for Mapatizia that the thanks of this Assembly be recorded for the exposition of public policy contained in His Excellency the President's address, and the Honorable Member from Pika was debating. May the Honorable Member continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the President spoke about the progress made under one of the national values, which is human dignity. Madam Speaker, when I was on the stand debating, I did indicate that there is no dignity in suffering. Our people, Madam Speaker, are suffering. Madam Speaker, the high cost of living in compounds, the high cost of living in rural areas, including my constituency in Pika, our people there cannot live a dignified life. Fuel, we have high price of fuel, high price of meal, high price of essential commodities. Madam Speaker, the JCTR report, food basket report, states that a family of 5 needs about 9,900 for them to live a dignified life in a month. How many of our people are able to afford that? Of course, very few. This speech by the president, a president who 1 year, 8 months ago, promised the Zambian people that he would fix it. The Zambian people want the real fixing that will translate into them living a dignified life. Madam Speaker, we want this government, if the harsh conditions of the International Monetary Fund are not bearing any fruits, Madam Speaker, let the government just withdraw from it and reintroduce subsidies on fuel and electricity for our people to live a dignified life. Madam Speaker, we have the high unemployment rate standing at 13.0%, and it is expected that the trend might even continue going up. Madam Speaker, we want industries in areas such as Mpika, areas such as Kasama, areas such as Chinsari for people to live a dignified life. Madam Speaker, we also, when you look at Article 59, Article 59C, it talks about the person that is making appointments to ensure that at least half or so are youths. Madam Speaker, this population, recently we are told by the Central Statistical Office that the national population stands at 19.9 million, and they say youth stand at 70% of that. When you calculate 70% of 19.9, you find that youth stand at 13 million. Even their own Ministry of Youth is run by a person who is not a youth, though he's hardworking, but he's not a youth. Even the PSs and the directors at that ministry are not youths. The youths need to be given an opportunity. So there is no equality in the manner these appointments, more especially in the cabinets, have been made in regard to the Constitution. Madam Speaker, as I continue, I know someone wants to thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm not going to thank you. As I continue, Madam Speaker, the President was right yesterday when he said someone who is doing wrong, kutumpa. Madam Speaker, those that are not fulfilling the campaign promises.
Honorable member. Can you translate that word that you mentioned? Kutumpa.
It's a presidential word, Madam Speaker, which means a mischievous.
And is it possible you can move a bit away from the mic?
Madam Speaker, the mic is... thank you, Madam Speaker.
It becomes too loud when you are very near to it. You may continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I was talking about the inequality that we as youths are facing, and we are only considered during campaigns. The youths out there are very frustrated, and they have appointed me as their coordinator. Frustrations, youths of Zambia have appointed me as their coordinator. They are very frustrated because their aspirations, Madam Speaker, have not been met. Madam Speaker, the youths need a voice. The youths need to be taken care of. Even opportunities, Madam Speaker, empowerment opportunities are just given to those that sing praises. Madam Speaker, how many have opportunities to sing praises? Madam Speaker, we need equality. Madam Speaker, our youths also need opportunities. SMEs, their businesses are suffocating, Madam Speaker, under these policies. Madam Speaker, farmers are complaining. They cannot live a dignified life, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this government should pay an ear and attention to the sufferings of our youths, the sufferings of our people, so that our people can also live a dignified life. Madam Speaker, as I conclude, I want to appeal to the President to balance the appointments that is appointing. Otherwise, it will be considered that we are now in ethnocracy, where only people from one region or two or three are being considered in various positions. That is called ethnocracy, Madam Speaker, and we don't want to go that route, Madam Speaker. I thank you.
Your time is up. Honorable members, as we are debating, let's please be mindful of some of the things that we are saying, such as the youths they have appointed you to be their national youth chairman. So I don't think it's all the youths, or maybe the youths in your constituency. So it's better to say some or most, or we don't know, but don't generalize it. Just a guide. We move on. The honorable member for Usakile.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to add a comment on the debate, on the speech, which was delivered on 24th February by His Excellency, the President of this Republic, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, on the progress made on the application of various principles. Madam Speaker, in this speech, the President gave a lot of examples of the scenarios happening in the country to authenticate what he presented to this House. And as I debate, Madam Speaker, I also bring in examples. Madam Speaker, the story of illegal immigrants who are arriving in this country dead in sealed truck containers and tankers makes a sad reading. In human history, Madam Speaker, people have always migrated in search of green pastures. And we cannot, in the 21st century, how can you create barriers for the people to migrate or to go and search for greener pastures elsewhere? We cannot criminalize the movement of people when we know that in the Middle East, the economy is there. They need cheap migrant domestic workers to flourish. In the Western countries, they need cheap migrant labor also to flourish, including in South Africa. Are we truly a global village if we can allow movement of money and restrict the movement of people? Madam Speaker, that comment was on patriotism. Let me go to also national unity. National unity, Madam Speaker, seems to be eluding the New Dawn administration, who assumed power on the platform of meritocracy. To the contrary, Madam Speaker, appointments in public office has tended to favoring people from the burnt potato ethnic group. And therein lies the anti-rules for the New Dawn administration. The people of Usakile and Zambia at large are wondering as what has happened to the mantra of meritocracy in the public service. The New Dawn administration needs to walk the talk on the one Zambia, one nation by not creating a burnt potato government.
Point of order, Madam.
Madam
There is
Speaker,
an indication for a point of order.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker,
I rise on a point of order pursuant to Standing Order number 65. Madam Speaker, it is incumbent upon all of us in this House, when we rise and speak, to speak on issues that can be backed by evidence. Is the honorable member of Parliament in order to make those frivolous, malicious statements without taking into account, Madam Speaker, what his government had done? Madam Speaker, as we debate here, we should always never forget history. No, I'm raising a point of order. No.
Order, Honorable Member for Chinsali, please don't assist me.
Yes.
I'm attentively trying to listen for me to come up with a ruling. I'm going to tell him to stop if he's debating. Can you please give him chance?
Thank you,
no,
Madam
the
Speaker.
Honorable Member for Chinsali, please, can we be orderly? Let's not be trying to exchange words with another member on the floor.
Madam
It has
Speaker,
to be through the Speaker.
the honorable member has made very serious allegations. As he's making those serious allegations, is he not aware that the PF government, in government at the time, more than 90% of the civil servants were from one region? No, wait.
Order, Honorable Members.
What is your problem?
You can
Wait.
see. No,
What is your
Honorable
problem?
Member for Chinsali.
What?
The Honorable Member for Chinsali, please, I said don't assist me.
Yes.
Please don't assist me. Yes. I'm listening.
Yes.
May the Honorable Minister please summarize your point of order.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I was saying, is he not aware that under his government, more than 90% of government, cabinet, were from one region? The civil servants were in one region. Is in order to mislead this House that there is nepotism and people are being appointed from one region when they were the culprits themselves? And when you compare, the regions of Zambia are adequately represented in this House.
Honorable Minister. Order. Honorable members, I think we've been keeping this speech for almost 7 days now. How difficult is it to follow this speech? Because now when we bring in other issues that are not contained in this speech, that's where we have, is it disagreement in the House? Can we please just follow what is contained in the speech? In that way, I think we'll be orderly and we won't go astray. So the honorable member who is on the floor, please, as guided, can you be specific to issues that are raised in this speech so that you don't bring disagreements in the House? So with that guide, you may continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the guidance. What I just said was drawn on page 8, paragraph 5, which extends to page 9, where His Excellency acknowledged the diverse nature of the ethnicity groups that we have in this country, Madam Speaker. And also the One Zambia, One Nation is indicated there, but well guided, Madam Speaker. Then let me leave this subject, then jump to democracy and the constitutionalism. Madam Speaker, on democracy. Our young democrats seem to have suffered some setbacks following the electoral dust which was raised in Kwacha and Kabushi parliamentary by-elections. The voter apathy we saw, Madam Speaker, confirmed one thing, that we cannot have democracy without democrats. Whilst the courts were busy working hard, trying to provide guidance on these two by-elections, the UPND and the president camped in Kwacha and Kabushi constituencies only to win these seats with about 6,000 votes. The apathy witnessed, Madam Speaker, in itself was a clear vote of no confidence in the UPND government. To grow our democracy, Madam Speaker, we should be seen to be creating a level playing field for all. Let me also comment on constitutionalism. Madam Speaker, constitutionalism is anchored on the rule of law. What we saw in the Kabushi and the Kwacha parliamentary by-election was an erosion of the rule of law. That's the reason why the UPND should not celebrate cosmetic reforms to the public order. Whilst the defamation of the president has been removed, we are still witnessing truckloads of citizens being taken to court on the so-called hate speech under the cyber laws. Freedom of expression is a fundamental human right guaranteed by the Constitution, which cannot be stifled by vague subsidiary laws on hate speech. Madam Speaker, maybe let me go to good governance. Let me go to good governance and integrity, Madam Speaker. Good governance calls for integrity and transparency. Yet the citizens of this country, Madam Speaker, they don't know the net worth of the president. Yes, we know he's a businessman, but there are serious genuine concerns on conflicts of interest which might affect him. How can you say you want to fight corruption, then you have failed to declare your assets publicly, so that the citizens of this country can demand for social accountability at the end of his first and last term, this one? Madam Speaker, from here, questions of integrity arise on how these economic managers in the UPND are running the economy. The UPND was voted on an account on the platform of homegrown economic transformation. Yet, microeconomic fundamentals have exposed these economic managers on how they are running the economy. You have given tax incentives.
Your time is up, Honorable Member. Thank you. The Honorable Member for Mwembeshi.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for allowing the people of Mwembeshi to add a word to a very powerful presidential address addressed by His Excellency the President. Madam Speaker, I want to entitle my discourse that the corrupt of yesterday, bakabalala bakale, bakabalala banomba, na bakabalala ba future.
Order, honorable member for Mwembeshi. Order, honorable member for Mwembeshi. I have already guided that let's follow what is in this speech. And when you use a word in vernacular, please translate it. In the standing orders, it's very clear that when you use a word, you have to translate it. Let's be mindful of the content of the speech. Can you translate Bakabwara Raba, Mailova, whatever you had said?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The corrupt people of yesterday, the corrupt people of today and tomorrow. Madam Speaker, the President was very categorical. He talked about morality. In short terms, morality is to know what is good and what is bad. Madam Speaker, the President has scored, and this government has scored in people to know that there is something which is bad and differentiating between good and bad. Madam Speaker, when the President took power, this country did not know what is bad and what was good. Whenever there was a meeting, you would find cadres in vehicles moving in the wrong lanes and trying to run around their heads outside. Today, whenever the President is coming from the airport, coming to State House, you won't see people on the queues standing and or making that noise, oh, aleteka, aleteka. There's nothing like that. The people who were of yesterday, they didn't know where the left was, where the right was. They were just headless chicken. The President has scored and has improved. There's no cadreism. I want to tell you, Madam Speaker, during the time when President HH got power, you cannot go around dressed in a red T-shirt.
Honorable member for Mwembeshi, try to avoid words that are provoking. The headless chickens, who are these that were headless?
Madam Speaker.
Let's try to avoid. You may continue.
Madam Speaker, what I'm saying here is that, you see, what was wrong was adopted to be what is right. President Hakainde Hichilema has said, in his trying to bring morality, he is saying what is wrong must be considered as wrong. What is correct must be correct. You cannot come to Mwembeshi and start sharing land which does not belong to you, and you say that that is a good idea. The people then, they did not know that this land belongs to Mwembeshi. They didn't know what is right and what was wrong. Therefore, they were morally bankrupt. People who...
Honorable member for Mwembeshi, there is an indication for a point of order. From the Honorable Member for Lunte, what is your point of order?
Madam Speaker, 65. As a way of introduction, Madam Speaker, you just demanded that bad expressions such as headless chickens should not be used. And the Honorable Member of Parliament no, not Mwembeshi, Siavonga, shouted my name, but I'm the one. Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I need to protest on that because I think I still have sufficient grammar. My point of order is against my honorable colleague who is on the floor of the House, who claims that the President has scored because there's no cadreism. When just this afternoon the Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security was accepting that
cadres, UPND cadres, beat up their colleagues in Kitwe yesterday. UPND cadres stoned PF cadres in Kitwe yesterday. In Ndola, UPND cadres caused havoc. In Kasama, Madam Speaker, UPND cadres caused havoc at the police station. We have catalogued the ugly faces of cadreism during the UPND government. Is my honorable colleague in order to state that the president has scored there is no cadreism, when in fact cadreism has extended even to offices for civil servants? I seek your serious ruling, Madam Speaker.
Thank you so much for that point of order. Again, let me mention that the issue, the matter of urgent public importance that was raised, it was agreed that it will be dealt with next week. It was closed and finalized. So the honorable member who is debating, please be mindful of some of the issues that have already been mentioned in this House. Because the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs actually agreed to say that he has received reports of some violence. In fact, it's violence, not cadreism, which he mentioned. He said violence in some parts of the Copper Belt, and then somebody mentioned Kasama. So that's when we said that issue will be dealt with next week. And when we are talking about cadreism and violence, I don't know whether they are one and the same thing. Because cadreism, I think there were a lot of issues, including violence. Violence is on its own. So when you say the president has scored because there's no more cadreism, well, it depends on the definition of what cadreism is. So as far as I'm concerned, honorable members, like I guided, can we be focused to this speech? Because now we are even misleading the country when we say, no, there's cadreism, no, there was violence, no, there was this and that. But in the speech, I think it's very, very clear what the president brought out. So please let us stick to the speech. That issue will be dealt with next week. And it will even tell us whether there's still cadreism or there was just violence or whatever happened. We'll be able to know. Because as far as we are concerned, the president brought it out to say there's no more cadreism. So with that guide, honorable members, the member on the floor, can we stick to the speech by the president? The people are following. What is it that you want the people to hear that you are talking about from this speech by the president? Especially your people from Mwembeshi. What do you want them to learn from this speech?
Madam Speaker, let me read from page 9 to re-emphasize what I'm talking about. We are delighted to report that cadreism and political violence have been brought under control. Page 9. Our people are now able to go about their business without fear or being harassed. And I quote from what the president said. I'm saying the people of Mwembeshi, when they come into Soweto market, they are being harassed. They could not sell their tomatoes. When they bring their import, they say, no, can you surrender? And then they surrendered. People are harassing them. Today they are doing their business in a good environment. This is a score. Why are you talking about disputing what I'm talking about? Madam Speaker, during that time, I'm telling you, the people of Mwembeshi used to live in fear. Fear of what? These very people who are called PF, they sent people in Mwembeshi, records are here, to go and harass the people in their own land in Kawena and made them slaves. Then today they want to start claiming that no, we shouldn't talk about Kabwalala. Madam Speaker, imbira ya mumushita wa yansukira.
The honorable member for Mwembeshi, you are fond of using vernacular words.
Let me interpret, Madam
There is
Speaker.
no kabwalala in English. Can you
Corrupt
please...
people in our language, there is no better way than thief, but corrupt people. So these are corrupt people who got our land from Mwembeshi, and they are now regrouping, trying to say that they are saints, when there are people who grabbed land in Mwembeshi. How can these thieves today, or sorry, corrupt people today, come back today and start talking about, talk about morality? How can they talk about morality when they grab the land from people? Madam Speaker, let me continue. Let me continue, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker.
Honorable member for Mwembeshi, can you please avoid to be provocative? I think that is what we are supposed to follow as well. Because when you keep on saying you corrupt, the people are here, can we please try to be in a calm and a voice, a tone that is not provocative? Before you stand up, there is a point of order. So that is why you are attracting a lot of points of order. Please just follow your speech. Follow the speech. It will guide you on issues that you want to debate.
Thank you very much.
The honorable member for Chitambo, what is your point of order?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Standing Order 65 is very clear that we must be very factual on the issues that we debate on the floor of the House. And, Madam Speaker, the first thing that the debater would have done was to declare interest on the issues of land that he has brought to this House. Because I know that that man there is a surveyor and is appearing in court because of these land issues over the same land that he's talking about.
What
Madam
is
Speaker,
the point of order?
the point of order is in order to be talking about land issues when he has got court matters over land issues, which he's talking about, to abuse those who are outside there, who cannot defend themselves, who has taken him to court, is in order to be debating the way he's debating, forgetting that he's in court with certain members of this country. I need your serious ruling, Madam Speaker.
Order, honorable members, I think now we are going astray. That is what I've seen. The standing orders do not allow us to debate ourselves. Now we are starting to debate ourselves by saying, no, that one is, the matter is in court where he is also involved. Can we refrain from debating ourselves? The honorable member who is on the floor, can you please be focused? Can you be focused on the speech?
Madam Speaker, my voice is just like that, and I shall not be told how to pronounce my voice and my accord. That's how I am. Madam Speaker, what I'm saying here is that integrity entails that you cannot grab something which does not belong to you. You cannot come to Mwembeshi and start allocating plots for your own selves, and you are saying that that is integrity. No. Madam Speaker, people got land in Mwembeshi. They shared amongst themselves. The people of Mwembeshi are suffering, and the president is saying, we are actually working on this so that the people of Mwembeshi are given what they are supposed to be given. Madam Speaker, let me come about integrity and people who are talking about those things. My own niece, Madam Speaker, was employed under correctional service. They took them to Kaoma. At night, the day they arrived there, they started calling Jamba, Shagabizi, Hana Nobu. They called them at 23 hours, Madam Speaker. I can cry out of this very thing. After calling them at night, they grouped them there. Then they asked them, you people, pack your bags and go back. When they had already removed their hairs, they actually called the names from Southern Province, the names from Western Province, the names from Northwestern, and all of them were packed. She's there and as a witness, Madam Speaker. Today, these people can talk about integrity when the president has employed teachers without any segregation. The president has employed police people without segregation. The cabinet is actually combined here with all provinces represented. Can they start talking about no integrity? Madam Speaker, the president has scored. I want to tell you that during our time, I was independent. Do you know that someone was saying, no, even if we can debate ourselves, no, this Jamba, you have seen who is coming here to be working with you. He is actually from this region. Can you disalign him? What can they say today? People who have got no integrity, they have regrouped, Madam Speaker. After regrouping, they want now to come back and think that this country can be ruled without integrity and morality. The president is actually walking the talk, Madam Speaker. Because why do I say that? He has shown in employment, he has shown through his cabinet, and he's saying all those who are corrupt today, he is not going to be no sacred cow. But only I'm disappointed one thing. This thing I know, the president is hearing. Madam Speaker, the president has used kids' gloves on the thieves of yesterday. Why is he trying to babysit these people? These people are regrouping you executive if you don't know. He's too kind with them. There is no need for allowing a snake. You kill a snake, you just beat it at the tail and leave the head to be what? To be moving. That's why he was seen even in Copperbelt saying, Ukutumpa. Because you have left the snake still alive. Madam Speaker, what I'm saying here is that we have heard the speech. The speech is a very good one. And we are saying the president has scored. And we are saying the president is a good person who is able to talk about morality. Because when they arrested him, he did not pay back. If he was going to pay back, some of these people who are seated here were not going to be sitting here because they are the perpetrators of evil. They are the ones who were actually perpetrators of evil.
Your time is up, Honorable Member. There is an indication for a point of order. The Honorable Member for Kawambwa.
Madam Speaker, I rise on a very serious point of order.
The people on my right. Order.
Madam Speaker, I rise on a very serious point of order pursuant to number 64. Is the kutumpoko wakutumpa.
Order, Honorable Member for Kawambwa. Now you've started exchanging words. Instead of raising a point of order, there is no point of order.
Point of order.
Can you avoid exchanging words with your fellow members?
Madam Speaker, I rise on a serious point of order.
Can you just withdraw what you had said?
Jamba just used it.
Order, honorable members. That is why you were supposed to raise a point of order. In fact, I was still coming to the honorable member who was on the floor. It's only that he stood up for a point of order. Order. What is your point of order?
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, is the honorable member on the floor of the House in order to allege and point to all of us on the left that we are perpetrators of evil, when he cannot substantiate that we are perpetrators of evil and is allowed to continue in that fashion. He is in order, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. I have already guided that we are not supposed to debate ourselves, but the tendency is growing. You have started debating yourselves. The honorable member was out of order. But also, honorable member, please avoid certain words because you are so honorable in this house. You are not supposed to use them whether somebody has used them, because if somebody insults, we are all not going to insult. So let's avoid using unparliamentary language. Similarly, even the member who was on the floor, you are also an MP, honorable member of parliament. Let us refrain from using unparliamentary words. The people are listening. When you say Bakabwalala, what have you, the people are listening and they are even imagining how many thieves we have in this house. Let's try to not to use unparliamentary language. We are all MPs in this house. So with that guide, the next member to debate, please avoid debating each other and let's not use unparliamentary words. The honorable member for Mwandi.
Madam Speaker, thank you so very much for allowing the people of Mwandi through me to debate on this speech that was given by our president. But before I do, let me recognize the minister. I don't know, I know he's not here, but the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the appointing authority. I should mention I was debating in the European Parliament and I received great support from the Embassy of Brussels. You can tell that this government is serious by the appointments that they make. The ambassador there is a technocrat, the first secretary is a technocrat, and I want to appreciate the government for the great work that they did. I really appreciate the service that I received and the support from the Embassy of Brussels. It can show that we don't have cadres in this foreign service. Madam Speaker, as the President was delivering this speech, as I'm saying, I was in the European Parliament. I'm surprised as we sit here that this speech back at home is being debated in this way. I opened my laptop. Madam Speaker, no sooner did I open my laptop to listen to our president, did I have other delegations come and listen to the speech that was being delivered by the Zambian president? Yes, they sat there and listened. Madam Speaker, let me say, we have made so much progress. Let me first begin by saying, even as we are debating this speech, Madam Speaker, I wonder, when we are talking about the progress that we are making here, it's undebatable. It's straightforward, it's there. The President and the Cabinet Ministers are doing a great job. First of all, let me make mention, I was in this Parliament when the Minister of Health here stood and said, we had an unsustainable debt. From who? I was here when the Minister of Local Government stood and said, we had unsustainable debt. I was here when the Minister of Finance stood here and spoke about the debt that was left in this country by the former. Now this government surely is trying to fix the mess that was left. The same people that brought about the mess are there standing up. Really? Are we serious? Condemning the people that are trying to fix the mess that they had brought. When we are talking the progress that we had made, we started from zero. There was nothing. The president came into this house and said there was nothing that was left in the coffers. And the cabinet and the president are trying by all means to make sure that we can progress. And here we are debating about all these things that were brought by the same former that are here standing up and speaking about these same things. Honorable Speaker, I wish I could use the word that my colleague used, but I will use it in English. That is being very mischievous. And that's being very dishonest to the Zambian people. Because the same people that you had dragged, they were in Canaan. You took them back to Egypt, where they were suffering. And this government is trying to take the people out of Egypt, where they are suffering. You are there opposing. That's very unfair. Madam Speaker, we are talking about national values. If we just had to go back, way back, just 2 years back, we witnessed as women on National Youth Day when a woman like me was stripped naked in this country. In the presence, it's public knowledge. It is public knowledge that a woman like me was stripped. Today, by the former.
Today, as we are talking about national values, we watched, Madam Speaker, as we celebrated Women's Day, we watched, Madam Speaker, our colleagues also wear their regalia, and they marched side by side with us. Please do not take the democracy, please, for granted. And the democracy and the unity that we are bringing to the Zambian people, let me tell you, my colleagues, is something that is owed to them. We as the UPND government understand that we owe the Zambians the peace and unity. And we want one Zambia, one nation to be the walk of the talk of the UPND. That's why even on National Youth Day, you people were free to march and enjoy National Youth Day. This never used to happen. When you were in government, you people, you just have to accept that you were wrong. You never did things correctly. And support us as we are doing the correct thing. But what you are doing is you are standing there and opposing all the correct things that we are doing. Madam Speaker, let me come to the issue of increased CDF. I sat here in disappointment as I heard someone say, even the increased CDF is not enough. Madam Speaker, this one should talk about CDF not being enough. Madam Speaker, CDF not only was CDF in their time very, very minimal. It was 1.6 million.
Honorable members, please, those who want to raise points of order, just indicate on the gadget. I'll be able to see you. Just indicate, I'll be able to see you. The honorable member for Mwandi will continue.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. We are talking about increased CDF. Madam Speaker and our colleagues are making fun of it. Madam Speaker, in our rural constituencies, not only in Mwandi, but in their constituencies as well, I have seen so many of them posting on the social media of how much progress CDF has brought in our various constituencies.
Today, honorable member for Mwandi, there's an indication for a point of order. It's very easy if you indicate on this gadget. It will show that there is a point of order being raised. The honorable member for Lunte, what is your point of order?
Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, when a female parliamentarian is debating, it's very unfair to stand and disturb the thought of a female parliamentarian. But, Madam Speaker, the female parliamentarian uses the word mess 3 times, which she knows very well it's unparliamentary. My point of order, Madam Speaker, is the honorable member for Mwandi in order to be pointing at us and saying you were free to march, when in fact Youth Day has got nothing to do with PF. Youth Day has got everything to do with the young people. And as far as I can see, there are no youths here. How can the honorable member accuse us of being free to march when in fact we are not youths? I think you are serious ruling, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, honorable member for Lunte, for using the word mercy. Of course, the honorable member for Mwandi was out of order. But when he was talking about marching, I thought he commented on the Youth Day and the Women's Day. The women were marching. Of course, you are saying there are no youths there. But the honorable member for Mwandi, I think I've already guided. Let us try to avoid discussing ourselves. Let's not bring ourselves into your debate. Let your debate stand alone, minus the members of parliament who are in this house. So with that guide, honorable member, just try to put your words appropriately so that you do not involve the members in this house. And please avoid even pointing at them. If you want to say those people, just try to find suitable words. The honorable member for Mwandi will continue with that guide.
Thank you so very much, Madam Speaker, and much obliged. I was talking in regards to increased CDF. Madam Speaker, not only this government has it scored in increased CDF. Today, as we speak there, the same youths that we are purporting to love so much, that they are saying, you know, youths, the government has failed to do this. Is it not the same youths at the university that they failed to give me allowances? Maybe I'm lost. Is it not the same youths? Is it not the same youths that they failed to give free education? Is it not the same youths? So, Madam Speaker, when we come in this house, you know, I've seen attendance of people, you know, we are here, and they are trying to debate things as though they are not the ones that actually were harming the youths. This government is trying everything possible. Today, as I stand here, with the free education, every child that is growing up in all the corners of this country has a chance to even become a member of parliament because you only need a grade 12 certificate. So this government is actually empowering the youths. I spoke about meal allowance and decentralization, Madam Speaker. So we have also made strides. We have scored. Today I still sit here, Madam Speaker, and I know we are failing to deliver in CDF because of rigidity. Today the minister stood here and spoke, even the approval has been given to the provinces. So when we are making scores, it's up to you as a member of parliament. If you want to fail, you will fail. If you don't want to see, you will not see. But the people out there that are in this country are seeing peace and unity. They have seen it. You can also see, Madam Speaker, how the same people who didn't allow other people to be free in this country, you can see how free they are. They are very free now. They are free to talk about the president and anything that they want, to an extent actually of abusing. You know, they are free. They are very, very free, Madam Speaker. So the strides that have been made by the UPND cannot be underestimated. We have done well and we will continue to fix it. With that being said, I submit.
Thank you. The honorable ministers who want to debate will indicate so that we do not leave you out. We are going to call upon the honorable member for Kaumbwe.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for allowing the people of Kaumbwe to debate on the presidential speech that was delivered on 24th February 2023. On the onset, I want to say that the president had a very good opportunity to inform the nation the progress made on our national values and the principles, of which he did. The speech, I think about 19 pages or something like this, 21 pages, is rich. The pronouncements made by the president through this speech are rich and give hope for a better future. What we see, the pronouncements as made in this booklet, they are good. But what is obtainable on the ground is totally opposite. The New Dawn government has been in government for almost 1 year and 8 months. The progress made on national values could have been more quantitative than being qualitative. The pronouncements by the president that are of much appreciation to the people of Zambia and through the people of Kaumbwe constituency are as follows. For example, on illegal immigrants. Illegal immigrants, the government has set aside border guards to curb illegal immigration. But what is obtainable on the ground is that this New Dawn government has forgotten totally about informal borders. We have a lot of informal borders, like Mozambique border along Kaumbe constituency, along Kapoche up to Chipata. We, the people of Kaumbe constituency, depend on that on the Mozambique and Zambia border. There is a lot of there are a lot of problems that exist in that place in terms of security. The pronouncement by the president to talk about CDF, enhanced CDF, it is a very good pronunciation. And yet, what is obtainable on the ground and the information to the people is not well informed. What is it? CDF is not increased. CDF is not increased. CDF has simply paralyzed central government obligations to be set on CDF. The amount of money that PF used to give in CDF was much more effective as compared to what we have now. Examples are already given in the speech. The implementation of the CDF, for example, right now in 2023, government has given directives to say, before we even spend this money on this 28.3 million kwacha, we have been given directives to...
Order, honorable member. As the time is 1640 hours, I suspend business for 20 minutes.
Good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in to Parliament Television. The House has taken a break. Business will resume at 17 hours, and on the floor of the House was a Kaumbe Member of Parliament, Mr. Mwanza, adding his voice to thank His Excellency the President's address. A reminder that the debate on this particular motion actually commenced on the 28th of February 2023 and does come to an end this Thursday, which is the 16th of March 2023. So we expect some ministers actually to also, start adding their voice regarding thanks His Excellency the President's address. And so, in case you've just joined us, the House did consider 3 questions for all answer under Standing Order number 24. Just now, we equally take a break. Do stay tuned right here as we continue to bring Parliament closer to you.
My name is Jacqueline Sabao, Member of Parliament for Chikankata constituency in the Southern Province of Zambia. I was born on 29th September 1975 in Kafiwe. I started my school in Chikankata at Kavo Secondary School now in Chief Naluama area. Later, I went to Nakatete Primary School because my parents were living in Kafiwe. And then my secondary school, I was at Naboe Secondary School in Kafiwe. Then I went to do my accounts at Ivarin Horn College. Later, I went to the university to do my undergraduate in development studies. And then I did my master's in public administration at Lusaka University. However, I also worked, my first employment was with MS Zambia, where I was a programs officer. Then I went to COMESA headquarters as a programs officer under the youth department. From there, I also did a lot of research. There was a program under the University of Zambia Development Studies Department where we had a research program sponsored by Copenhagen University of Denmark. I was a researcher there. Later in years, I thought of starting my own business, a company business called Just Investment Limited. We deal in construction and general supply. I'm the director of that company. I am married and I have 3 children, all boys. Chikankata constituency is a Lolo constituency, and as we all know, it was given the status of a district in 2013 under the leadership of the late President, Mr. Michael Sata. And Chikankata is an agriculture area. However, we have a lot of challenges as a district, because being an agriculture area, the most challenge we have is the road network. It's very difficult for our people to take their products to the market because of the poor road network. And then the other thing is that our people, they depend on livestock. But at the moment also, the other challenge we have is the issue of the diseases. As we all know, in the past years, Ministry of Livestock, they are not employing extension officers. Hence, our people, they don't have the information on how to take care of their livestock. And around 1989, a lot of our animals died. And hence, the levels of poverty went high in Chikankata, and our people started charcoal burning, which has also affected the environment. At the moment, Chikankata is one of the constituencies that have been hit by the climatic change because of lack of trees, meaning it has also affected the land pattern in our area. So especially the northern side, Chief Nalwama, the rain pattern there is not good, but on the other side, it's fine. But like I've said earlier on, the issue of the road network at the moment is poor, and it has really affected our agriculture activities, which is the main source of income for the people of Chikankata. With the coming of CDF, as a district, we've put up a lot of developmental programs. Like I said earlier on, that it's a new district, meaning we need to come up with projects that will change the face of Chikankata. First and foremost, we need to look at the geographic setup of Chikankata. Chikankata is a district which is like 2-in-1, having 2 chiefdoms, and it has 14 wards, and each chiefdom has 7 wards. Meaning, as you are planning, you are supposed to balance the two, so that you are not seen to be like you are one-sided. Naturally, as human beings, they would think, no, maybe she's concentrating much on where she's coming. However, where I'm coming from, this area, Chief Nalwam, we don't have a lot of infrastructure development, but on the other side, we are lucky that the missionaries came, those who built Chikankata Mission. So that side we have Chikankata Hospital, which is one of the biggest hospitals in this country. We also have Chikankata Secondary School, which is a boarding school, and we also have a biomedical university, which was opened recently, and other activities there. And even when you look at the population, that's where the highest population is in Chikankata. But the other side also, we are also like as people of Chikankata, we are the one hosting the biggest dam in Zambia, meaning that the main source of energy in this country comes from Chikankata, the Kafue Gorge Dam. And at the moment, we also have the one which is under construction and almost completing is the Sino Hydro. But however, as the people of Chikankata, we have not benefited from this dam, which as area of member of parliament, I'm trying to negotiate with DESCO to see how they can pay back to this community, having this dam, which is very expensive, sitting on our constituents. How do we benefit? 80% of Chikankata doesn't have electricity. We are not connected to the grid, but we are the people supplying the country and the region. So as a member of parliament, what we've done under the CDF, for instance, 2021, one of the major projects that we came up were 4 projects, which is the extending one of the secondary school to a boarding school called Chikani Secondary School. It will be a boarding school. And you know, when a school is a boarding school, it means you are not just targeting the local pupils. We are also looking at those coming outside the district, meaning the economic activities of that area will change, because a lot of people will come, and with the coming of free education and also the bursary being paid under CDF, meaning that money from other constituencies will come to this school, and it will change the activities, the economic activities of this area. And other things we looked at for 2022 is the issue of desks. We've heard the pronouncements by the president saying that he doesn't want any Zambian child to sit on the floor. So as Chikankata, under the 2022 budget, we allocated a 1 million kwacha to buy desks, and when we did the BOQ, we came up with 1,000 desks, which will be shared equally across the district. In Chikankata, we only had 1 shed that was receiving the FISIP from our suppliers, but under the CDF, we've also allocated some money to construct one of the biggest sheds in Chikankata, on the other side, that is under Chief Nalwama, that's at Nasenga. And then the other money we allocated to a clinic in Upper Kalea. And then we also have 24 projects in the wards. Those are like a 1x3 classroom blocks, some boreholes, and also other activities. But however, coming to the 2023, we are looking big because, you know, 2021 was like a pilot project for all of us. We are learning a lot, even at government level, at constituency level, even the local authority. They were learning a lot. But from the 2022, the way we operated, we've learned a lot, meaning going forward, we'll do better. My dream as a member of parliament is that come 2026, there must be change in Kankata. People should see that the past 5 years, we had a member of parliament who had the love for this constituency. And I want the people of Chikankata and even those outside Chikankata to benefit of what we put in as a team under the CDF fund. My word to the people of Chikankata is that the role of government is not to give handouts, but to facilitate the well-being of its people. Hence, with these opportunities under the CDF, we have the grants, we have the loans. People should work together. What is important, what I tell especially the young people and the women is that as an individual, think within your space, what can I do as an individual? What is it that I want? First, before you think of other people, answer that question that, as me, Jacqueline, this is what I want for my life. Then, what is available within my space? At the moment, we have a caring government that have given equal opportunities depending on what you want. If you want to go back to school, you'll still go back to school. If you want to do business, you'll still go back to business. If you want to work, you work. At the moment, there have been a lot of recruitment. As we are talking right now, we are still waiting for the list to come out of recruitment, especially in the defense wing, meaning that the government is offering the opportunities to all Zambians, but it's up to an individual to identify what you want. It's not the government to tell you what you should do, but you as an individual step forward and say, this is what I want, and work around what you want. What is important as a people of Chikankata is that the most important thing for a district to develop or a country to develop, the people around that area, they should love one another. There must be unity so that you put your heads together and come up with projects that will help your people.
My name is Kona Simunji. I was born from Mr. and Mrs. Simunji in Namamumba village in the eastern part of Narikwanda. I did my primary school at Namshishe Primary School in 1974 to 1977. Then from there I moved to Nakaembe Primary School where I did my grade 5 to grade 7. And then from there I went to Kawamathunda School in 1982 up to 1986. From there I did my cabs. As you are aware, I'm an accountant at Evelyn Horn. Thereafter I did NATEC at Evelyn Horn. Thereafter I did ACCA at ZICAS. Thereafter I went to Copperbelt University where I did my postgraduate diploma in finance. Narikwanda constituency is a very nice constituency, though in a very bad state. Narikwanda constituency is made up of forests and rivers. Currently we have got 53 schools, with mostly primary and basic, and 6 high schools. However, with the schools, I can tell you that we have got a lot of work to do. With the current recruitment of teachers, we will embark on buildings, accommodation for teachers. Apart from schools, we have got a bad condition in terms of health posts. we can only say maybe we have got 2 clinics in Narikwanda. That's Nakanya and Naroi. There is a health post where they cannot even admit a patient. So we have got a lot of work in terms of health institutions, because I don't believe in the models of building a health post. I believe in building a clinic which can accommodate at least 15 people, which we don't have currently. Apart from there, we have got no roads in Narikwanda, which you can call a road. Last year, actually, we had an accident where teachers who were coming from a function in Mongo, their vehicle fall into a river. Meaning our crossing points in Narikwanda are in a very bad state. So that one is also another area which we need to invest in. Apart from that, in Narikwanda we cultivate a lot of rice, maize, cassava. So that area is actually, I would say, the most productive part of Mongo district. So we need to educate our people so that they move away from the plains and come and invest a lot in Narikwanda constituency. In Narikwanda, we have got a very big plan for them. With the CDF which has been given to the constituencies, we plan to start with the crossing points first. That's our first point. When we finish that one, we move to the clinics. If we can manage even to build mini hospitals, that would be better. Actually, I have managed to secure a mini hospital for Nakanya, which is where we are trying to see if we can put a district. On Saturday this coming weekend, I'll be in Nakanya, where I'm meeting all the chiefs in Narikwanda, where we are going to discuss about developmental issues in Narikwanda. My word to the people, my constraints is that I'm part of them. I know all the problems which are related to Narikwanda. If I say I will bring development alone to Narikwanda, that will not be enough. We shall work as a community and work with them to see that we work with our WDCs, because that's where development will start from. We work with them, we work with the chiefs, village admins, so that we see which development we should attack first. From there, we shall see that Narikwanda is developed. But actually, the major one, we need to make sure that Narikwanda becomes a district, so that we share resources. Because currently, all the resources which go to Mongo district, they just go to Mongo Central. Now we want to make Narikwanda a district, so that our resources come to Narikwanda as a district, not as a sub.
Well, I'm a self-motivated person. I don't need to be pushed. Yeah, and I'm a self-starter. My grade 1, I did it at Misoro Primary School. Then grade 8 at Petauke Day. Then 12 at Petauke Boarding Secondary School. That was way back in 1994. My tertiary education, I've done my first degree with Rusank University in business administration, specialized in human resource management. Our family, we are a family of 7, although one sister died. Mom died. We are just with my dad. My core business was, I'm a businessman. I run transport, I run lodges, I ran transport, and I'm into construction. I joined politics in 1991 because it was in me. During school, I used to be a very good one of those who could do debate and what. So I started politics in 1991. I'm an elder in the SDA church, and I do go to church, and then I do watch soccer, and I read novels. I represent Msanzara constituency in the Eastern Province. First thing is we want to make sure that our people are united, and you know, with this new bursaries that has come in for free education, we want at least all our people to go back to school. Those who went astray, those who went for early marriages, we want them back into schools, and we want good road infrastructure, we want good health infrastructure, and to improve on the livelihood of our people. You know, even our constituency is a rural constituency where even water is a problem. So we really make sure to say part of the CDF we utilize it to drill boreholes, and then some part of that money we use it also for aquaculture, like creation of dams. All those are part of the things that we want to empower our people in Msanzara constituency.
Good afternoon. Live pictures are coming your way right here in the chamber as we expect a business resume in a few minutes from now. The House are currently debating, thanks His Excellency, the President's address. And just before the break, we did see Mr. Mwanza of Kaumbe constituency adding his voice to this particular motion that was moved by Mapatize MP, Ms. Imelda Monashabantu. And this motion has been seconded by Kantanshi MP, Mr. Anthony Mumba. So we have seen quite a number of members of parliament actually debating this particular motion. Debate started on the 28th of February. Just now we take it to the chamber.
Mr. Speaker!
Parliament television. Business will resume as soon as a quorum is constituted. 1/3 of members of parliament need to be present in the House in order for business to be transacted. And so the bells are ringing, awaiting for more members of parliament to walk into the House so business can commence as the House is debating, thanks His Excellency the President's address. And we did have Mr. Mwanza of Kaumbe debating, and we expect him to finish off his debate. Immediately business resumes. Remember, debate on this motion comes to an end on Thursday, that's this Thursday, on the 16th of March 2023. So we await for a quorum to be constituted. And just a reminder that earlier the House did consider 3 questions for oral answer understanding order. Number 74, details to those questions, or rather responses, will be given to you after adjournment. So of course, we did have a question from Mr. Chanda of Kanchiria, Mr. Miutu of Kalabo, and lastly Mr. Mtachalo of Chairman North. And so ministers did give responses to the questions. Just now, we take you to the chamber.
Order. When business was suspended, the House was considering the motion moved by the Honorable Member from Mampatizia that the thanks of this Assembly be recorded for the exposition of public policy contained in His Excellency the President's address, and the Honorable Member for Kaumbo was debating. May the Honorable Member continue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I was saying the CDF has not been increased, as per se. But the people of Kaumbe constituency appreciate the CDF because we are saying, as from the rural constituencies, the CDF is a game changer. However, there are so many bottlenecks.
Order. There's a point of order by the honorable member for Mwandi.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I was seated here nicely listening to this honorable member. I'm standing on standing order number 65. Maybe you should explain to us what mathematics is using. That is saying CDF has not been increased. When in actual sense, CDF has increased from 1.6, and even the 1.6 was discriminatory given, to 28.3, which is given to everyone. So what mathematics is this honorable member using to come up with this and misleading the nation and the world at large that CDF has not been increased? Mr. Speaker, please help me understand which mathematics this honorable member is using. I'm worried. I'm worried even for him to continue debating.
Order. Honorable member for Chama South. Order. The honorable member for Kaumbwe. I was even wondering as well. I was wondering as well. My feet were very cold. That the CDF hasn't been increased. I don't know what he's trying to say. If 28 plus, if you compared, even last year's CDF was 25.7. Even just looking at last year's CDF, there's an increment. Now I don't know what the honorable member was talking about. The honorable member is out of order. For misleading the people and himself. May the honorable member continue.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Well, I'm not going to respond to that, to talk about the mathematics, because it is a simple derivative equation. The obligations of the central government, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Agriculture, all infrastructure projects have been lumped onto the CDF. And before, there's even a very direct example in this 2023 CDF allocation. Before we even spend the money, we have received mandatory instructions that 1 million to go to Rural Electrification Authority, 1 million to construct chief's palaces, 1 million to buy a vehicle for police. So many, more than 7 million kwacha already allocated. And when I was doing the mathematics, numbers don't lie. When I was doing the mathematics, it comes out that the 28.3 that is propagated comes to just maybe 2, 3, 4 million kwacha. Is that what you call increment? And you further abrogate the rules of the CDF guidelines. We've set WDCs, constituency development committees, to actually plan for the expenditure of these monies. But we are receiving instructions to say, before you plan, can you allocate this money to this much? We were just supposed to receive advice to say, in people of Kaumbwe constituency, they need electricity. We need electricity, we need power. There is no way that we can donate 1 million kwacha to RIA for RIA to allocate electricity access to other constituencies. We are going to plan for that 1 million kwacha to be used in the electrification of Kaumbwe constituency. We go to what I call Goja, her, Goja Twanjie. What it means, patriotism.
Honorable member, what language are you using?
Our standing orders are very clear that if you use a different language, you need to translate. I'm using a Chinese language. I said, I'm going to translate. What I said is that 爱国者、爱国者和国家团结。Now, meaning, I Goja, it means patriotism. Goja means country. Twanje, unity. Patriotism and national unity. The president's pronouncements are very clear, and even in my preamble speech, I said that if we are doing according to what is in the speech, this country would be different. But most of the lieutenants.
Honorable member. Next, the honorable member for Chembe.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, values gives direction to the way that individuals, organizations, and society act, what they strive for, and what they deem important. The worrying thing is that these values are cultural approved. Now, the unfortunate part, these values are under threat. When you go to page 4 and 5, you will find that there's a lot of ill things that are happening within our societies, and a lot of it is to do with the family institution. A family institution is a very important institution. It is the one that builds society. If neglected, then we are creating a time bomb for the nation. It is therefore prudent, the Honorable Speaker, that the government needs to make a roadmap on how this family institution, which is under threat, can be enhanced, and making it to be an institution that is to reckon with. It has been echoed in the speech that we have got high rates of divorces, illicit in terms of drugs, etc., etc. What is critical is to have now a roadmap on how these vices are going to be curtailed moving forward. Because in the speech, it has been recognized that really the family institution is under threat. But what the Zambian people need is the roadmap. And what should be borne in our mind is that these family values, they go along with our tradition, methods, and things. Now, many are times that we have concentrated on bringing in conventional things, imitations that are making it so harmful to our societies. Mr. Speaker, as much as we can imitate things from the West, as much as globalization has come with its own dynamics, it is important that we don't fall prey too much to those. We need to have limitation. And if we are to have a progressive national values achieved, Mr. Speaker, we need these two to move in tandem. As much as we are using conventional methods, we should also focus on this traditional method, because these national values that we are talking of, as I've already alluded to, Mr. Speaker, they are approved by our cultural practices. but we have neglected our cultural practices. It is here, Mr. Chairperson, Mr. Speaker, where we have been struggling with poverty. But mostly this poverty in terms of sustainability, which is in this speech. We are struggling with poverty, but many are times that our focus of fighting this poverty, we focus on using conventional methods. It is not that we are short of traditional methods that can help us to fight this poverty. For example, there are certain cultural practices that we have in Zambia. Outside an example where in old days, for this sustainability to happen, in old days you find a child is said, once a child is born, before he's given the name, the uncle has to produce a chicken, or is supposed to produce a cow to give to that child. So as the child is growing, you find that he's also building wealth. In such a scenario, would you expect such a child not to survive, even if the guardians are late? He will still survive because as he grows, he's trying to create wealth for himself and is able to sustain himself. But the focus in our sustainability, mostly we have focused on conventional methods, which we have tried. How much aid have we received from our donors? How much money have we received from IMF? Has it brought our poverty down? No. The reason is one, is that we are relying on one method of making us sustainable. The other example outside the chairperson on the sustainability is that when I talk about agriculture, yes, and I'll focus on, for example, maize seed. Maize seed, we have ignored our traditional maize seed that they used to put in old days in a hut, smoked for preservation. I have not seen the Minister of Agriculture coming here and give a roadmap on how the traditional seed can also be harnessed to incorporate it with this hybrid seed that we are using. That thing, it is able to help us sustain us in terms of poverty, but we haven't taken that roadmap. Many times we are only focusing on hybrid seed, hybrids. There is a seed that each one, even here honorable members, knows that we have neglected. That seed, it doesn't even go for fertilizer. It used to grow and very nutritious, but we haven't seen us taking that roadmap. Yeah. Now, how do we sustain these national values that we are talking of, but we are forgetting our own? We are saying we are bringing in homegrown solution. The homegrown solution has to encompass these traditional methods. We are still struggling with the scourge of COVID-19, Mr. Chairperson, Mr. Speaker. The COVID-19, it has ravaged us, but we have forgotten that people came to realize at last to say steaming can also help us to keep this scourge. But we find that we were only relying on conventional methods. I want to see a time that we will see the Honorable Minister talking about traditional. Thank you, Madam.
Order. We'll be alternating the Honorable Member for Siavonga.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the President came to this House with a very clear message. And it was just a simple message, Mr. Speaker. The message to update the nation that this is what the government has done. And he started outlining He said the schools were without teachers. The health facilities were without health workers. And that was done. And to some people, that's not progress. The reintroduction of meal allowances for our children in schools, that is not progress to some people. The increment of CDF, I got shocked, just as you did, Honorable Mr. Speaker, that somebody can say CDF was never increased. How? Because even those things that he mentioned, that yes, we are going to use CDF on this and that, it will still be more than 1.6. So some of these mathematics that we use out there are not applicable in this house. It's from China anyway. When we talk about Kadarism is gone. You can have pockets here and there, but Kadarism is gone, and my colleague, Honorable Mufaya, knows this. It's gone. The Kadarism where you see your youth dangling on those minibuses on top of the minibuses, moving around or parking in the midst of the road with pangas, that you cannot see this time. You go to Intercity there, you walk freely. You can put on anything.
Let's avoid debating what is seated. I think the issues of Kadarism is referring to, I think the President mentioned in his speech about values. So let's avoid debating what is seated. May the Honorable Member continue. You have my protection.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what I'm outlining are the progress that this government has recorded. In everything, we have seen progress. And when we talk about the Kadarism that was at the Intercity, we no longer see that. And that's what we are talking about. The famous Kamugodi that used to happen somewhere, it's no longer there. When you talk about corruption, this government means well. And this government is fighting corruption with everything without leaving anyone behind. There are no sacred cows in the fight against corruption. One of the great sons, one of PF's presidential candidates said, "You can't feel something if you are in it." That's what Honorable Chishimba Kambwiri said. If you are in it, you can't feel it. So you look at people, just the auditing that is being carried out at the Ministry of Finance, because people are in there, they become agitated. They want to bring point of interjection. They want to say the government is doing something wrong. But inside they know that this is the money that was supposed to make sure that roads are worked upon, those roads in Chama North every day, in Chama South and other places. That money was going into individual pockets. When you talk about the Ndola Lusaga road, this road was supposed to cost the government 1.2, and we bring it down. Today, everybody is up. That's why they say, insoni ebuntu. You know, though shame, when as a human being, we should have sense of shame. Because we bring down the price from where they wanted it to be. They have no justification whatsoever. They cannot explain why it was going to cost us that money. The difference, nobody knows.
There's a point of order.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to raise this point of order pursuant to Standing Order number 65. The information provided must be true and verified. Mr. Speaker, it's in public domain that after the 25 years concession, the amount that the concessionaire, the amount of money that the concessionaire will realize will be 2.4 billion US dollars.
Order, Honorable Member, you didn't cite what has been breached.
I've cited the Standing Order number 65, Mr.
Which paragraph?
65B. Mr. Speaker, I was saying that it is in public domain that after 25 years, Mr. Speaker, the concessionaire will realize about 2.4 billion US dollars. And the construction of the road will cost 670 million. Mr. Speaker, 2.4 plus 670, that gives us 3.4 billion US dollars. Mr. Speaker, therefore, is the member on the floor of the House in order to mislead the nation that this road will be constructed at a lower price when he knows government will be losing the money that it's supposed to collect from toll gates. The money will be going to the concessionaire. Is he in order, therefore, to mislead the nation, even when he knows the cost of the road will be at 3.4 billion US dollars? But, Mr. Speaker, I seek your very serious ruling so that the people there are not misled by those who do not have what to say on the floor of the House. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I like the way you are speaking with a lot of passion. But at the same time is that the Honorable Member, as we are aware that for the member to know that government will be saving, I think he based on the information that was given by government. And I think it was submitted on the floor of the House that the Minister of Infrastructure 2 weeks ago, if not a week ago, issued a ministerial statement against the same inquiries and assertions that members were making as regards to the cost of the same road. And the minister was quite clear that government was saving huge sums of money. So the honorable member is not out of order. May the honorable member continue?
Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, I love my colleague because nobody can ever take him serious anyway. Because he called other human beings cockroaches. So it's okay, we accept. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, we follow what the government, what the minister gave this house, not the social media, whatever is getting.
Order. Honorable member for Siavonga, let's avoid debating each other. We are not allowed in this house to debate each other. And the honorable member for Mpika, you just have to indicate while he's seated that we've got gadgets now. We are not living in ancient times. When you indicate, then you don't need to shout on top of your voice. I'll be able to see that you've indicated the point of order. May the honorable member for Siavonga continue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I was saying, one of the great sons of PF, Chishimba Kambwili, who was with us here, said when you are inside the system, you will not feel it because you are inside that system. So I don't know how to interpret it. You will not. So at times, people fail to see what others are seeing. So we forgive them because, like they have said. But what we are saying, Mr. Speaker, that road, the minister came to the floor of this house and explained that we are procuring this road at a very cheaper price against what our colleagues wanted to do. Now, when you bring all the maintenance and everything from social media, that is not acceptable here. I was saying, in fighting against corruption, we have seen, even the people that are being investigated, we have seen the deputy PS and others, the presidential appointees being suspended or fired to pave way, which something that never happened and will not happen under the reigns of our colleagues. This they know. They would not do that. But we have shown this nation, and this is the reason as to why the world over has a lot of confidence in this government, the UPND government. They struggled every time they went to knock at the door of IMF. They were chased, these people. They were chased. Where are you coming from this side? No, you people that can just be dancing, we can't. But immediately we came. The president and the cabinet, they gave out how they are going to use this money. And the IMF listened. And you have seen everywhere the president went on the foreign trips. Everywhere he went, he could come back with something in his hands. But previously, what we could see are bottles of Jameson.
There's a point of order.
That's all.
There's a point of order by the Honorable Member for Petauke.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving the good people of Petauke this opportunity to raise a point of order on the Member of Parliament for Siavonga. Mr. Speaker, the standing order is very clear that the member is supposed to be factual. He had said that these people, we want him to be specific. Which people is he mentioning, which were chased? He should be specific to say this person was chased. So we want to know which people was chased. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The honorable member should have been categorical in stating which ones were chased. Though here we speak in the third person, we can't speak directly that Honorable J. Banda was chased, no. So if the honorable member says these people were chased, everyone knows what he's talking about. But it's better to be very categorical. May the honorable member continue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I want to remain factual, as I've been factual from the beginning. Mr. Speaker, I'm a factual man. One of the MPs in this house, as a cadre, Mr. Speaker, went in. He attacked the police station. He went there. One of the cadres, and this is the reasons why we are saying we are a dignified government. We can never allow somebody to go and harass the police officers. That is fact. We can't do that. That's why I'm saying, when it came to negotiations, the international community looked at all those things and they said we cannot sit together. The negotiators of that time, that group, were not allowed. Mr. Speaker, you may not be aware that one of the cadres at that time went to urinate in someone's mouth. Imagine, can you imagine? What values is there? Can we have people behaving like that? And the Zambians have woken up.
Order. There's a point of order by the Honorable Member for Lumezi.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this House is guided by rules, and some of your rulings become part of the rules of this House. Mr. Speaker, beyond our standing orders, your rulings are a guiding principle. How come you've guided the honorable member on the floor twice that we don't debate ourselves? Mr. Speaker, he has said one of those that were cadres then is in this House. And Mr. Speaker, it is not a secret that he's debating ourselves. Is in order to continue. If that becomes a precedence, Mr. Speaker, allow all of us to start debating ourselves. If that is allowed, Mr. Speaker, allow us, and we will do it with a lot of passion. I seek your serious ruling, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Member. I think if I heard the Honorable Member correctly, he said that one of them then was a cadre here, or or he said one of, I'm talking about what he said, like one of order. I think I've guided that even if that honorable member who urinated in someone's mouth could be here, we are not allowed to debate ourselves. That's what I'm trying to say. At whatever level, we should not debate ourselves. Let's avoid debating ourselves. I think this should be the normal practice. May the honorable member from Mufrila.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you very much for this opportunity to contribute to the motion on the floor. Mr. Speaker, when the President came here, I listened very attentively to the speech that he presented to this House and through this House to the nation at large. Mr. Speaker, most of the things that the President was raising, I actually did agree with him. And I just want to expand and give the other side of why some of the implementation of national values and the principles has been affected. Mr. Speaker, the President bemoaned the increasing levels of gender-based violence, domestic violence, and divorces. Indeed, these vices have increased in this country. But what I want to say is that there are actually causes. Mr. Speaker, if you read the newspapers and the matters in the courts, what is causing gender-based violence, what is causing divorces, some of the stories behind all these vices, they may look petty to some people, but they are actually destroying the family bonds. Mr. Speaker, the men of this country, including the women, are under a lot of economic pressure to provide for their families. Mr. Speaker, there is a lot of unemployment. There is a lot lack of economic activity. There is the high cost of living, as recently even released by the JCTR. In fact, from January, the cost of living has been rising and rising. The men who are supposed to take care of their families and the homes, as heads of these homes, are under increasing pressure, such that when a man is leaving a home and the wife is asking for 20 kwacha or 50 kwacha, and he knows that he doesn't have, just that pressure alone, Mr. Speaker, is leading to gender-based violence. The husband comes from gallivanting around to look for survival, and he finds that the only relish that he was expecting to find home, the child has eaten. The child suffers beatings. Mr. Speaker, the government needs to take care of the causes of all these challenges that are causing gender-based violence and divorces. We need to create employment. We need to revive the companies that create employment. In Mufrira, Mr. Speaker, we are looking for Mupani to come back to life. We are used to this rhetoric. It will come, it will come. Anything, very soon things will happen. But actually, the problem is that because people are no longer economically busy, Mupani is not providing employment. Mupani is not paying suppliers. People are going back home empty-handed. And when you go home, you find your wife and your children asking about bread or asking about meal. That is why we are seeing a lot of this violence. That's why we are seeing a lot of divorces that are taking place. So what this government needs to do is to make sure that all these companies like Mopani and KCM, the challenges that they are facing are corrected.
There's a point of order by the honorable member for Katombola.
Mr. Speaker, is in order this honorable member of parliament, who is addressing the nation and the world to mislead the world that the cost of living has gone up without laying on the table, on the floor of the House, any evidence of whatever he's talking about. He's talking of JCTR. JCTR, where is that report? Mr. Speaker, is he in order to mislead this nation that there are no jobs being created when PF, which was in power, could not manage to recruit the number of teachers that this government has recruited? Is he in order, Mr. Speaker, to mislead the nation that we are not creating employment as a government? When the health workers have just been employed, right now we are considering the list of Zambia Air Force officers, Zambia Army officers. Is he in order, Mr. Speaker? When they ran down, PF ran down the mines and left everything in shambles, Mr. Speaker, is he in order, this honorable member, to mislead the world just like that, without laying any evidence? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order, honorable members. Honorable members, let's debate with facts. Things that we're able to substantiate. If we talk about unemployment or cost of living, we should be talking with facts, because we are all aware that the Minister of Education has been on the floor of the House, I think last year thereabout, indicating how many jobs he had created and how many teachers he employed. Equally, Honorable Minister of Health also came on the floor. So if you are rebutting against what was presented on the floor, because the people are listening, you should be able to rebut with facts. Not necessarily, we should just not be politicking or debating. If we are rebutting against what government has presented on the floor, we should be able to come with facts. Because as far as the House is concerned, what was presented on the floor is that 30,000 teachers were employed. So if you, and many others, honorable members, if I'm making a ruling, avoid speaking. It's like you are trying to undermine my office. May the honorable member continue, but let's be factual.
Mr. Speaker, I feel very sorry that when we are debating national issues like this, you can allow points of order that are actually insulting the Zambians. Are we not aware that the JCTR produced a report for February and they said the cost of living has gone up by 230 kwacha? Are we not aware, Mr. Speaker, that fuel now is at 29 kwacha per liter? Are we not aware, Mr. Speaker, that the exchange rate is now at 20 kwacha 15 ngwe? Are all these not contributing to the rise in the cost of living? Mr. Speaker, we may argue here, but the Zambians are actually agreeing with what we are raising. And if you want to rise up here and disturb the floor, they are listening. I was elected by the people of Mufra to speak for them. And this is the message I'm bringing also. When you talk about Mopani and you start saying who caused the problem, in Mufrida, people are actually tired of reference to PF when we talk about Mopani. All they want now is that Mopani to be up and running, create jobs, pay the suppliers, pay the contractors. If you want to be rising here and saying it's PF, you remain with PF in your mouth while they kick you out in 2026. Mr. Speaker, let me move on. Our national motto is One Zambia, One Nation. We have grown up living with this national motto, Mr. Speaker.
There's a point of order.
Thank you so much, Honorable Mr. Speaker. I'm raising on a point of order and standing order 65B. The Honorable member debating here is lamenting of a bouncing back that it is going to win elections in 2026. That is the meaning. And I'm worried. I'm worried about the people of Zambia. That the people who destroyed this country, people who had brought violence, people who stole a lot, and the people, okay, who destroyed the economy, and as well, under the reign of PF,
it will attract our attention.
when people, they were ghastly, that even their reign, at one time, meal was going at 285 kwacha per 25 kg. Is he in order to debate in such a manner when Zambian people suffered under the reign of PF including the citizens of this country who voted for them in 2016, that under their reign, they were even gassed. Thank you so much. Please, Mr. Speaker, I need your serious ruling.
Order. Honorable members, I know from the left you are raising point of orders. Apparently, our rules don't allow to raise a point of order on a point of order. However, let me guide. Honorable member from Frila, let's stick to our debate on the floor of the House. Because, wait, I'm still guiding. You are going off your way by being political. Hence, you attract other opposing people with different views. And honorable member for Wengwa, two wrongs don't make a right. I know the honorable member. I'm making a ruling and then you're trying to... No, I'm still making my ruling. I'm trying to guide him that he should, if he raises on a point of order, he should pick what has been breached other than being political, the way he was. But before I even make my ruling, you are there standing. That's why oftentimes I like sending people out. May the honorable member from Frila continue.
Mr. Speaker, I was actually moving on from that topic. The President talked about one Zambia, one nation. And he said in this speech that this has been and should remain the firm foundation upon which this nation is anchored. I agree, it's a very firm foundation. Our forefathers inculcated this one Zambia, one nation in all of us. But today, under this UPND government, Mr. Speaker, when you look at appointments for constitutional office holders, when you look at appointments in the Foreign Service, when you look at appointments of boards and the chief executives for parastatals, when you look at appointments in the security wings, Mr. Speaker, Zambia is 752,000 square kilometers with more than 72 ethnic tribes. All these appointments I've talked about are only reflecting Southern Province, Western Province, Northwestern Province. Mr. Speaker, I am saying this, the Zambians are witnesses. The Zambians are witnesses to what I'm saying, Mr. Speaker. And they are watching. Even the retirements that are happening are only a...
Order. There's another point of order by honorable member for Shangombo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rarely rise on points of order. Standing Order 65. Mr. Speaker, is my colleague, the Honourable Member of Parliament from Furira, in order to say that the appointments by the President of is on tribal, is mentioned Southern, Western, and Northwestern, 3 provinces. When starting from here, our cabinet, all the provinces are well represented. Is he in order to mislead the nation in that fashion? Madam, Mr. Speaker, I need a serious ruling.
I think, honorable members, let's desist making political statements basing on trying to make especially political mileage on tribe. Let's not divide the country. We all realize we in this house, I think even the composition of the house, cabinet, I think it's evident enough to know whether it's representative of all the regions or not. We know. We know who is the agriculture minister. We know who is foreign minister. We know who is energy minister. We know who is mines minister. So let's avoid, honorable members, let's avoid order. There's some noise from the right. Let's avoid dividing the country further. The country is now healing. The country is healing. So let's avoid, at all costs as leaders, let's avoid making political statements that will injure our people. the listeners that are watching this program, indicating that there was a lot of selective appointments basing on ethnic groupings. Because people of Zambia, to some circles, have what the cabinet is in their offices. And they know. I don't know whether Honorable Mtolo is from Western Province. So, Honorable members, let's avoid making our political statements. May Honorable member continue.
Mr. Speaker, I am speaking, this is a message I'm bringing from the people of Zambia who have no opportunity themselves to come and sit here, but have elected us to speak for them. You may want to dispute these facts. Let's not downplay the tribalism which is destroying one Zambia, one nation, under this government now. It is real. Mr. Speaker,
Honorable member, if I guide, then may you stick to that guide. We've said let's not emphasize our debate on tribal.
Point of order.
Countries have gone to war because of tribe. And Zambia has always been united, regardless of our different ethnic groups, but we have been a united people. So let not this parliament that was ushered in 2021 divide the country. No. I think the head of state has tried his best to ensure that this country is united. So we are also an arm of government. Let's ensure that we cement, let's harness that goodwill that the head of state is trying to attain. May you continue, Honorable Member.
Much obliged, Mr. Speaker, but let me just remind that Zambia is beyond Southern Province, Western Province, and Northwestern. Mr. Speaker, let me move on.
May the honorable member.
I'm moving on, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable member. Honorable member. Order. May you take your seat. Order. Honorable member, you want to cause mayhem in this house. You want mayhem.
Point of order, sir.
Let's not come into this house with a preconceived mind.
Point of order, sir. Point of order.
Order. There's a point of order by the Honorable Minister of Local Government.
Mr. Speaker, I'm rising on point of order 203, which addresses the conduct of members of Parliament. And specifically, this goes to the Honorable Member who, in my view, also under Order 202, has abused his privilege that is bestowed on us members of Parliament. Sir, I have been quietly listening to his debate, and clearly it is become apparent, and maybe to declare an interest before I make this point of order, that I am a Tonga by tribe, and not by my own making. I did not choose to be one. When the honorable member stands up and says Zambia is not Southern Province, it is very, very offensive kind of comment, at least inside of my body. Mr. Speaker, I have been watching the narrative in the last few days that even members who appear to be decent have been influenced by the remnants of their glorious past, where the issue of ethnic cleansing was the main agenda. Is the Honorable Member of Parliament, who I somewhat respect, in order to now target a tribal grouping, those of us who come from the Southern Province, and state that Zambia is not southern province. A comment that I find extremely offensive, maybe even more offensive than being called a cockroach. I seek your ruling on this matter so that it can serve the generations that are coming after us. That when we do come to a house such as this one, we take much more of a broader interest of a national character than trying to continuously box an ethnic grouping, something we suffered when we were in the opposition, and clearly, maybe with a bit of reference, the president of PF, who was then the president of the republic, sitting in Choma, indicated that, referring to the current president, that I am not saying Tonga cannot be a president of this country, but this particular Tonga, meaning President Hakainde Hichilema, would never be the president of this country. I seek your ruling, sir, and as I end, I want to congratulate the sixth president of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Edgar Chagwa Lungu, for coming back into active politics. We welcome him with both hands. Take it easy. Calm down. Calm down. I wish to welcome President Lungu with all the dignity that goes to a former president who wants to come back into active politics, that he is welcome to come and join us back in politics. I seek your ruling, sir.
The honorable member of Mfurila, under our standing orders, you know that if you contravene against the ruling of the chair, who is the speaker, that is an offense. Because I guided you several times. So, if you are guided, I guide you and then you go against my ruling. That attracts some penalty of some kind. So, that aside, but what I require of you now, one, is to withdraw the statement. Two, to apologize to the House. These two things. Over your divisive statements that you've made. Because as a member of parliament, you should not thrive on divisions. And especially singling out a region. I think now our politics are... let's not incite people out there, and let's avoid opening old healing wounds that are trying to heal in this house. So withdraws that statement and apologize to the House.
Mr. Speaker, I'm much guided, and any part of my speech that has caused discomfort is hereby withdrawn, and apologies unreservedly.
To indicate what you have apologized. Yes. When apologizing, even if you wrong your own wife, you tell her, "Kuti, my wife, I apologize for this and that." So apologize in that line.
Mr. Speaker, I will need your guidance because I've been speaking for the last 7 minutes. And
you singled out one, a region. It's you who know that region.
Okay.
So you can't just forget just now.
Mr.
You
Speaker,
you apologize and you withdraw what you said.
Mr. Speaker, any unjust reference to Southern Province, Western Province, and Southern and Northwestern Province is hereby withdrawn. Allow me to proceed, Mr. Speaker.
You can proceed.
Mr. Speaker, the President also spoke about climate change and the devastating effects that it has caused to the households across the country. Mr. Speaker, the problem we have with dealing with the effects of climate change, especially the floods that have ravaged the communities, is that we have untimely response to the disasters that are affecting our families. Today, Mr. Speaker, for example, in my constituency, we have households whose houses were damaged in the last rainy season. And the district disaster management ended at just monitoring those houses and taking notes of the names of the residents and the number. It's been 12 months. Nothing has happened to support those families. And they are now enduring yet another rainy season. If the DMMU does not change its operations now, Mr. Speaker, I dare to speak that it ends up being a disaster itself, rather than managing the disasters that are affecting our citizens in this country. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. As you are aware that Friday was the last day for backbenchers to debate, we just use our discretion today to allow backbenchers to debate. So at this time now we call upon the front bench, starting with the Honorable Minister of Water, Development and Sanitation, to respond to the concerns that were raised in your debate. May the Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to render my vote of thanks in support of the presidential speech on the progress made in the application of the national values and principles as delivered to the second session of the 13th National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, I will focus on the following issues: morality and ethics, human dignity, equity, social justice, equality, and non-discrimination, as well as good governance and integrity. Mr. Speaker, morals and ethics play a critical role in shaping the moral fiber of our nation. Morals and ethics are key components of a person's character and help us distinguish right from wrong and understanding how to live a good life based on the values we hold sacred. Mr. Speaker, morals and ethics enable us to see the consequences of our actions and motivate us to do what is right. Therefore, without morals and ethics, we would be lost as a nation. Mr. Speaker, His Excellency the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, stated in his address to this August House that moral uprightness is key to achieving meaningful national development. However, as a nation, we still experience a high prevalence of vices such as alcohol and substance abuse, teenage pregnancy, child marriage, and gender-based violence. Mr. Speaker, alcohol is sold everywhere nowadays because of the breakdown of law and order as experienced in the immediate past regime, where licenses were issued even to home shops to sell alcohol. And this is exposing our children and others who are underage to be exposed to alcohol. This is an issue which requires to be addressed as soon as we can. Child marriages and teenage pregnancies, Mr. Speaker, are social ills which continue to be a source of concern to government. Child marriages threaten the lives and well-being of the future of young people, especially young girls. Child marriages rob young people of their childhood and threatens their lives and health. Mr. Speaker, studies have shown that girls who marry before the age of 18 are more likely to experience domestic violence, high poverty levels, and poor health outcomes. Child marriages also impose substantial economic costs at a national level. Mr. Speaker,
This is why the New Dawn government, under the visionary leadership of His Excellency the President of the Republic of Zambia, introduced free education among other interventions as a way of not only keeping children in school longer, but also to ensure that we have a well-educated citizenry that will contribute meaningfully to national development. Gender-based violence, Mr. Speaker, continues to be a source of concern in our country, where we experience people, women being battered, in most cases to death. But this also affects our men folks. And it is important that all of us, starting from your members of this House, civic leaders, traditional leaders, to ensure that they get involved and work hand and glove with government to ensure that this scourge is brought to an end. We encourage strong marriages and families, which are a foundation for a healthy and united society. Mr. Speaker, the rate at which marriages are breaking up in our country is worrisome. Therefore, His Excellency the President was in order and on firm ground when he urged families, the church, civil society organizations, and other stakeholders and leaders to intensify their efforts in supporting and safeguarding the institution of marriage. Mr. Speaker, His Excellency the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, in his address, further stated that social media and the internet have increasingly become a part of our daily lives and interactions. It has been observed rather that social media continues to be abused by some of our people through issuance of hate speech and divisive statements. The country has, through social media, witnessed defamation of character. This has the potential to lead to physical violence, mental stress, which may result in depression, among others. Social media has also been used to defraud unsuspecting users, which could lead to loss of investor confidence in the economy and reverse the gains that the government has so far made. Therefore, there is need that we all take responsibility and use social media for the intended purpose rather than dividing the country. Mr. Speaker, access to clean and safe water and sanitation services was one issue the President emphasized on, and I want to say that this remains one of the top priorities of the New Dawn government. I wish to take this opportunity to reiterate government's commitment to enhance access to clean water and sanitation services through increased budgetary allocation. Allow me, Mr. Speaker, to thank His Excellency the President for providing guidance regarding the use of CDF to prioritize the construction and rehabilitation of piped water and sanitation schemes for communities and public institutions such as schools, health centers, markets, and bus stations. This is progressive, as it will contribute to the attainment of universal access to clean and safe water and sanitation services in line with SDG number 6, Vision 2030, and the 8th National Development Plan. Mr. Speaker, good governance is an important precursor for transforming the economy, sustaining economic growth, and promoting human dignity, thereby safeguarding lives and livelihoods. I want to commend His Excellency the President and this government for ensuring good practices of good governance, for ensuring that those threats that we experienced in the recent past of people who took the law into their own hands, sometimes even things that are clear, you will still find people denying them. I think businesses were threatened because people took the law into their own hands through cadarism. And we are grateful that this has been brought to an end and people are able to do their businesses, to conduct their businesses without the lawlessness that prevailed then. And we hope that this can continue. Mr. Speaker, the national values and principles also underpin the moral fiber of our country and are, fundamental to Zambia's socio-economic transformation. Let me therefore appeal to all our stakeholders, such as churches, although we have seen, Mr. Speaker, a practice where people want to be doing politics in churches. And these are churches that witnessed a few years ago, Mr. Speaker, the members on your right being brutalized, not having the freedom to worship. Even in graveyards, at cemeteries, people would be brutalized. And yet people can shamelessly stand or sit there and refuse that things were all right. And we want to appeal to the churches to introspect and save these institutions fairly, because in churches there are different members of political parties. So this government, and also based on the submission of the president, we hope to continue ensuring that the morals and ethics and good practices continue in this country so that we can continue laying a strong foundation for our children. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister for Western Province.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm grateful for the opportunity to say a few words on the speech which was given by His Excellency the President on this floor of this House. From the onset, I wish to commend the President for his short but incisive speech, which he ably delivered here. Mr. Speaker, capacity or competence is judged by deeds and not pontification. For example, are we sure that people will need a long speech to differentiate the capacity of a government that in 5 years from 2016 to 2021 could only pay a paltry CDF amount of 3.2 million kwacha, and that which in 1 year paid 25.7 million kwacha, and for the following year even improved it to 28.3 million kwacha. Mr. Speaker, we on this side are intrigued by some of our colleagues who have been persuading us not to speak about the past. Why? Contrary to the enemies of progress, Mr. Speaker, we want to assure them that one cannot talk about the present or the future without referring to the past. On this basis, let it be known and understood that we shall never be made to stop referring to the past because we are not so naive. Contrary to the insinuations being made by these enemies of progress that we should stop talking about the past, we will not, because the past has brought us where we are today. The other point, Mr. Speaker, is that the speech made by the President was about the progress made on the application of the national values and principles. So how can we ignore the past in the evaluation of our performance? In effect, are we not being compelled to talk about the past and compare with the progress we made thus far? If that is the case, why make a long speech? What the President has simply done is to provide the figures and those who speak for him. For example, under the water and sanitation, it was reported that 1,416 boreholes were constructed during the period under review, while an additional 1,226 boreholes were rehabilitated. The same, Mr. Speaker, cannot be said what happened in the past, because in the past, those boreholes were phantoms, and this time around there's a difference because members of parliament are engaged and they are able to tell where these boreholes are going to be put. Mr. Speaker, under patriotism and national unity, let me thank the President for condemning tribalism at page 9 of his speech.
because it is retrogressive. If there is one major success which the New Dawn government has achieved, is to remove the feeling of entitlement from some section of the so-called entitled or the landed gentry. This country belongs to all of us. That is why we all pay taxes. Of course, the landed gentry in the new order will continue complaining because they feel that they have lost something, but nobody ought to pay attention to them. On the contrary, we should not tire to show them the light. Mr. Speaker, we saw, for example, how the previous regime perpetuated tribalism through appointment of particular tribes to key government positions and awarding of government contracts while sidelining other tribes. Other professionals were dismissed from their jobs on the basis of their tribe. The result of this was the promotion of mediocrity as opposed to recognizing talent and giving all Zambians an equal opportunity to thrive in their businesses or professions. Contrast this to what is happening now. The New Dawn administration has given equal opportunities to all tribes in this country, whether it is recruitment, empowerment programs, or business. This government has also made significant progress in restating those who were dismissed by the previous government simply because they belong to certain tribes. This is indeed commendable. In the past, Mr. Speaker, cadreism and political violence was the order of the day. Our people could not freely operate and conduct their business in the markets and the bus stations for fear of being harassed or even attacked. Political campaigns were treated as a matter of life and death. To the contrary, the New Dawn government has managed to restore peace in our markets, bus stations, and the campaign fields. Our people are now able to conduct their businesses freely in the markets and bus stops, irrespective of the party they belong to or support. Even politicians from opposition parties are now able to canvass for votes in the same space without violence. What a relief. Mr. Speaker, when we came here, the second week in 2016, we were tear-gassed by some of our colleagues here in Luansha, and when we came here, they were able to look us in the face and tell us that we are making up stories. What a shame, Mr. Speaker. Under human dignity, through you, I wish to convey the gratitude of the people of Western Province for the decision made by their listening government in decentralizing the approval of CDF projects, the provincial administration. This will ensure efficiency in the approval processes and therefore expedite implementation of CDF projects. Further, the decision by the New Dawn administration to issue the ZPPS circular number 1 of 2023, which has placed all CDF procurement under the vesting schemes in line with the Public Procurement Act number 8 of 2020, is yet another measure which is greatly appreciated by our people, as this will ensure that contractors and suppliers resident in our constituencies will be given a priority and the preference in procurement of CDF projects. Under good governance, Mr. Speaker, good governance and integrity are prerequisites to national development. Other people, we are very happy with the stance that the New Dawn government has taken to prioritize the fight against corruption, past, current, and future. The fight against corruption has yielded results as evidenced by the resources which have been recovered from corruption. Interestingly, what do we see from the suspecting wrongdoers? When they are visited by the law enforcement agencies to explain themselves, they run to various stakeholders, including our traditional authorities, to complain that they are being prosecuted on the basis of tribe. What they are forgetting that when they were involving themselves in these nefarious activities, they were doing it on their own. So by doing so, Mr. Speaker, are they being fair? Corruption, Mr. Speaker, is a hindrance to development. Most of the projects which were started by the previous regime were not completed mainly because they were merely a conduit of corruption. These projects are a witness to the devastating effects of corruption. However, as a responsible government, these projects have not been neglected, but have been prioritized for completion to ensure that the money spent already does not go to waste. Mr. Speaker, in concluding my address, I wish to thank His Excellency the President for the leadership that he is providing, which has enabled the New Dawn government to make such remarkable progress in the application of the national values and principles within a short time. This is why it is said that those who are competent don't need to justify themselves because their deeds speak for them. Equally, long speeches are not necessary when facts and figures are presented. The citizens of Zambia can clearly see and differentiate day from night. That's the reason why they appreciate our president, Hakainde Chilema. Thank you very much.
Any further debate from the right? Any further debate? The Honorable Minister of Home Affairs, adjournment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I propose that the House do now adjourn.
The question is that the House do now adjourn. Any debate? Any objection? The question is agreed to. The House? Is now adjourned.
Business today, Tuesday, 14th March 2023. Time now to look at business that was considered on the floor of the House starting at 14:30 hours. The House did consider 3 questions for oral answer under Standing Order number 74. The first question came from Mr. Chanda of Kanchiria. He did ask the Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development whether the government has any plans to construct roads on the following routes: from Sesheke in Western Province direct to Kipushi in Northwestern Province. And the Minister of Infrastructure and Housing in response did say that government does have plans to construct roads from Sesheke in Western Province to Kipushi in Northwestern Province. In the other part of the question, Mr. Chanda wanted to find out from Chunda Ponde in Kanchiria Parliament